Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone from all parts of the world who have registered for the great event which we are having today. Hope you all and your family are doing safe in COVID times. Our best wishes are with all of you. The half day virtual event happening today is a very interesting topic and will focus on how emerging technologies like AI, machine learning is changing the landscape of telecom sector. Along with the talks, we also have a great panel discussion, which will add a flavor and also provide you deep insight into future of AI in telecom space. Now, to begin with, let me introduce myself and the company to you. My name is Nitin Naveen, and I am the Vice President Innovation Strategy at AI CoreSpot. I'll be your host. Further, I have been joined by my colleague, that is Arvind and Naveen, who will also assist me in keeping the event lively and resolving technical glitches if it comes in between. So, thanks a lot to them for putting in hard work and making this one a huge success. We'll try to provide a seamless experience to all of you so that you can gain maximum output of this. Let me provide a brief background to all of you about AI CoreSpot. We started this year backed up by our technology partner Digit 7. Our focus is to provide all of you a deep dive in all the sectors wherever technology is there, and every month the theme is different. Also, we are gaining momentum as the time is tickling. Our aim is to number one AI driven community all over the world so that like minded people like you can be a part of the same in supporting, growing, and making it a success. We'll continue to do industry backed webinars and hybrid events. The knowledge repository will be made from reliable data through industry leaders, subject matter experts, and thought leaders. We'll enrich the content through videos, blogs, podcasts, newsletters, and digital content to shed light on the ever evolving industry. Our mission is to serve as a hub for information regarding Industry 4.0 technologies, which includes AI, machine learning, deep learning, robotics, blockchain, IoT, edge computing, analytics, 5G, drone, edge AI, digital twin, AR, VR, cloud, and so on. Today's event is one series of events which we have planned for this year. It's power packed with speakers' presentations and panel discussion themed around how AI is transforming telecom sector. There are lots more in store for subsequent months as well, with focus on IoT, blockchain, healthcare, retail, e-commerce, banking, and so on. Request all of you to go through our website, aicoresport.io, for any further updates. Also, please like our social media handles, which will keep you all updated on everything what we propose to offer in the coming months. Before starting with the day, things so that it can set up the tone for the amazing learning and networking day. A special mention to our technology partner, Digit 7, who has helped us in understanding our vision and supporting us to create a platform like this through which we can achieve our objective. The support is immense. So, some introduction about Digit 7 to everyone. Innovation is the cornerstone of Digit 7. At Digit 7, they combine emerging technologies in unprecedented ways to engineer extraordinary products and offer innovation as a service. They are pivoting the traditional innovation model on its head to bring innovation closer to production and citizen scale impact with innovation DNA. They draw transformative resources and endless energy from four quarters to make this happen. Their association with trusted brands such as AWS, Azure, IBM, Microsoft, SAS, Adobe, Salesforce, Sterling Commerce, amongst others, help them constantly upskill presentations, practitioners, and champion the partners' best delivery methodologies. Professionally, they are also closely associated with great like Tech Titans, Forbes, Technology Council, CompTIA, Richardson IQ, University of Texas Dallas, and more technology brainpower to leverage their contrasting standpoints and diverse skill set. So products which they have are Smart Express Store, e-commerce, Grab and Go, Edge POS, admin management, Smart AR, delivery, pickup app, digital wallet, drone scan, blockchain-based SCM, Label Monkey, Data Mink, digital twins. The services which they have are product engineering, INAS, that is innovation as a service, digital transformation, customer experiences, and innovation design. You can all go through their website, which is digit7.io, and understand more in depth. Also, Thanks to all our community partners for today, which includes InfoVision, Avaya, Beyond Edge, Amazon, Ariaka Networks, Lightwave Solutions, Ambient INC, Comcast, Verweba Telecom, and Sienna to make this event a success. Special mention to speakers and attendees of the event who registered and came today to achieve their objectives through this forum. At the end of the day, if you gain something out of this or to get to network with each other, then our core objectives will be achieved. Further, if anybody wants to ask questions, I'll repeat, if anybody wants to ask questions, they can type in the Q&A section, which is there at the right corner of the menu option. You can type in as and when the speaker speaks, and we'll try to get it answered after each talk or as per the time permitted. So there's also a hand button at the bottom of the screen, which is visible to all of you. You can even raise the hand and come to the stage to ask questions to speakers as well. So this is all I had from my side, and I'll quickly take you through the agenda and let you get introduced to the speakers, their topic, and we'll go started. Yeah. So let me share the screen, and I'll try to give you a glimpse of the event. So this is the flow for the day. We are starting now. So in the next 4 minutes, my next speaker, the first speaker for the day, that is Thomas Smith, who's the Director, AI Product Management at Avaya. He will take the proceedings. His topic is Beyond the Chatbot, 10 other uses for AI in the contact center. Then we have Amir, who's the CEO of Beyond Edge, and his topic is at Network Automation, Key for Successful Digital Transformation. Then we have Nikunj, who is from Amazon, who is the Principal Technology Solution Strategic Programs. His topic is how AI is transforming the telecom industry. Then we have a great panel discussion moderated by Chitrai, who is the CTIO of InfoVision. The theme is Future of AI in Telecom Space. Other Kiran, Chief Marketing and Product Officer, Ariaka Networks. Doug is their President and CEO, Lightwave Solutions. Mustafa Ergan is their President and Founder of Ambient INC. Then we have from Comcast 3 great leaders, Ken, Alan, and Yulia. Ken is Enterprise Executive at Comcast. Alan is Executive Director, Product Management. Yulia is Director, Product Management. Their topic is SD-WAN, Artificial Intelligence Machine Learning Algorithms to Dynamically Optimize SD-WAN Traffic. Then we have Gayatri, who is from Verweba Telecom. She's the Director of Engineering there. Her topic is AI Network Optimization. And the last topic, which we have for the day by David, who is Chief Data Scientist at Sienna. His topic is Automating Network Operations with Artificial Intelligence. So without wasting any time now, I request the first speaker for the day to start the proceeding. Thomas, over to you, please. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Nitin. And it's a great honor to be able to kick off the event today. So thank you for that.
Our pleasure, Thomas.
Okay. So welcome, everyone. I'm Tom Smith, and as Nitin said in the introductions, I do lead a product management team for artificial intelligence applications at Avaya. As some of you probably know, Avaya is one of the leaders in the contact center and unified communications and workstream collaboration space. So I have my LinkedIn profile URL down there at the bottom of the screen. I suspect there might be more than one Tom Smith out there, but you can also just go ahead and search for Tom Smith or Thomas Smith Avaya, and you'll be able to find me on LinkedIn if you would like to engage after this event. And I am working on advancing my slides here. There we go. So before we get into the specific applications for AI in the contact center, let's start with a little bit of business context. So, of course, artificial intelligence adoption is already underway, but we're in the early stages, which I don't think is much of a surprise to anybody. So if you look at where AI is really gaining a lot of traction right now, you'll see that a lot of organizations are starting off with chatbots and virtual agents so that they can gain the benefits of customer self-service, which can, of course, lead to improvements in customer satisfaction as well as in cost reductions. But a lot of other things are going on within the contact centers that are really shaping business imperatives for organizations. First and foremost, we're all acutely aware of what's going on with the pandemic, and that has accelerated the transformation to work from home agents or work from anywhere agents. And even as we get out of the woods here, hopefully, before too much longer with COVID, I think this is a trend that's never going to completely go back to the way that we were before. Organizations are also using their contact centers to create competitive differentiation by delivering personalized experiences. There's a lot of competition in a lot of industries, and so this can be a real way to separate yourself from your competitors. Organizations are also moving more and more to data-driven marketing. And so they see the contact center as a very valuable source of information that they can tap into. We're seeing a convergence of customer relationship management and contact center services. So there's a lot of intertwining between these systems that tell you about your customer profiles and customer history, together with serving customers in real time through voice and digital channels. And also, finally, contact centers are tapping into subject matter experts in other parts of the organization. So the contact center agents are not on their own. So just think about that as we go through the talk. When you think about how you can leverage artificial intelligence in your contact center, think about all of these business imperatives, and it certainly goes beyond just the chatbot. So let's dive into the use cases. The first one that we'd like to talk about is agent assistance. So instead of just assisting the customer directly, AI can be used to provide tools for the agent. There are a lot of agents out there that are not trained adequately. There's a lot of churn in the base of employees. And so there are agents who need some help gathering the right answer. So with AI, you can employ real-time transcription of calls as well as intent analysis. And that will help determine in the background what they're really looking for and enable the system to proactively serve up content to the contact center agent. So that can really shorten the time that the agent is spent looking for information, keep them on the call with the customer, and be able to provide consistent information and recommend next best actions. A related use case also helping out the agent is post-call wrap-up. So agents tend to spend a lot of time between calls that would be better served if they were on the phone with customers. So you can use these same transcription and intent analysis capabilities to actually create call summaries, to auto-populate reason codes and resolution codes for calls, and that can cut that between call work. We had one customer who reported that it reduced their after call work by 5%. And so that means more time on the phone with customers and less time being wasted. Also, AI can provide an unfiltered voice of the customer. So many organizations are turning to tools such as surveys, which certainly have their place, but they can provide biased information. And so the way that artificial intelligence can help, once again, transcribing calls and providing word mapping and topic modeling functions so that leaders, not only within the contact center, but also business units throughout the organization, can see what topics customers are really talking about, and they can even use this to then zero in to the moments of truth, as I call it, in call recordings when customers are doing important topics. Again, you don't have to just rely on surveys and rely on summaries. You can actually get in and hear what real customers are saying. Finally, when looking at the agent side of things, AI can also be used to help supervisors, and this is particularly useful in a work-at-home environment where supervisors need to understand, what their agents are up to, so they can see, out of all the agents working from them, how many of them are actively taking calls, and importantly, what the status of the call is. So you can populate an agent dashboard to show the calls that might be in trouble. The supervisor can intervene in real time. So instead of being able to simply help their contact center agents after the fact and maybe recommend training and things like that, they can actually intervene in real time and change the outcome of the call for the better. Our next use case is also very useful for work from home or work from anywhere agents. I think we're all familiar with video conferencing applications like the one that we're on today. There can be a lot of background noise when people are working at home. It might be doorbells ringing, babies crying, dogs barking. I think that's a Boston Terrier that we see in the photo there, sitting right behind the agent. And if you hear a lot of noise like that, that can really convey an unprofessional image. So AI can be used to filter out that background noise. And by employing machine learning, you can identify the human voice, detect and counteract these extraneous sounds, and the solution can keep getting smarter and smarter as it gathers up more real-life data. Our next use case, also a very good one for work from home or work from anywhere agents, is biometric authentication. A lot of time and effort and money have been poured into authenticating the customer side of interactions. And of course, that's very important. But security really requires that you know who is on the agent side of the call as well. And so organizations are looking to employ biometrics, whether that's fingerprints or facial recognition or voice recognition, not only at the time that the agent logs on initially, but that can persist throughout interactions, particularly with voice and facial recognition, to ensure that there is a legitimate agent on the other side of the interaction, so that customers can be confident when they're providing confidential information that they're providing it to the right person, and organizations can feel confident that they have security on both sides of the interaction. Switching gears a little bit, let's look at a more traditional challenge for contact centers, and that is agent staffing and scheduling. Of course, if you have too few agents logged on during peak traffic times, that can mean long call queues, inefficiency, customer dissatisfaction. On the other hand, if you have too many agents, then that's going to be an inefficient use of your human capital and will result in costs that are too high. So how can AI help here? Well, with machine learning, you can improve and better predict the call volumes and therefore proactively schedule the right number of agents in your contact center. The eighth use case here is intelligent routing. When you escalate an interaction from self-service to an agent, whether that's through a voice channel or a digital channel, you want to find the right agent who has the right skill set so that you can improve first contact resolution. But it goes beyond just having the right agent with the right skill set. Also, AI can be used to improve attribute routing. So you can better match the personality and interests of your contact center agent with that particular caller. And many studies have shown that this significantly increases positive call outcomes and also can lead to better upsell and cross-sell opportunities. Almost getting to the end here. So our ninth use case out of the 10 is on the outbound side. So not only can AI improve your inbound contact results, but can also help you optimize your outbound campaigns by predicting the best day, the best time, and the best contact channel to reach individual customers. So employing AI in this manner will significantly improve the business results and the take rates on your outbound campaigns. And finally, the last use case that I'd like to talk about today is language translation. So this is appropriate not only for multinational organizations, but many organizations have an increasingly diverse customer base. So while it's always desirable to match up with an agent who knows the customer's language, that's not always possible. And so language translation can be a great aid in this, particularly for digital channels. There are a lot of translation services available, but out of the box, they're not always really optimized for particular companies that might have their own industry jargon, their own acronyms, or even just to handle the various idioms that callers might use, and or callers, customers through digital channels, whatever the case may be. And so machine learning can be employed here to language translation programs to really improve the accuracy of the translation. So the key takeaways here, and it looks like I may wrap up a few minutes early, but the key takeaways, first of all, I've talked about many things in the contact center aside from chatbots and virtual agents, but those are always a great place to start, and the business imperatives of providing a better customer experience while reducing costs remain top of mind for most organizations. So start with chatbots and virtual agents. However, when looking at your AI strategy in the contact center, you really want to think about your other business imperatives as well. So in addition to self-service applications, you can use AI to improve your agent productivity, including but not limited to work from home or work from anywhere agents. AI can be used to provide better visibility for supervisors into what's going on and provide that capability to intervene in the moment of truth and actually rescue calls and improve call outcomes rather than just providing training and improvement after the fact. AI can be used for interaction routing in both voice and digital channels. And again, it's not just looking at the caller's intent and matching based on skills, but also vastly improving attribute-based routing. AI can also be used after the fact, after calls are over, to look more in the aggregate, to extract meaning and understand the voice of the customer and provide insights not only to contact center management, but also to business unit leaders throughout the organization. And then finally, AI has been used very effectively to predict traffic loads and to improve staffing levels or optimized staffing levels, as well as to understand where agents could use some additional training so that they will be better equipped, especially when there are a lot of new agents and agent churn, to be able to better provide first contact resolution. So the key takeaway when planning how to leverage artificial intelligence in your contact center, think beyond the chatbot and look at all of your business imperatives. And with that, I have wrapped up a few minutes early. So if there are any questions, I would be glad to entertain those at this point.
Yeah, so thank you, Thomas. Thank you for the presentation and starting the tone for the day. We'll just wait for a minute in case anybody of you have any questions. Just type in the Q&A section in case you have joined in late and you didn't hear what I said in the beginning. You can type in the questions as and when the speaker speaks, so that easy for the speaker to answer at the end of the session. As we have limited time, so we'll try to get it answered. In case you have any questions, just type in the Q&A section. We'll wait for 1 minute and then we'll start with the next presenter. What, Doug? What partnership opportunities does your company offer in marketing? Can you elaborate? So, can you elaborate about routing use case? Do you mean IP networking routing? David has asked you a question, Thomas.
Yes. So what I'm really referring to is inbound interaction routing. So that could be based on a voice network or a digital network in the case of chat sessions or social media interactions. So it is really more from optimizing the match between the end customer and the agent, or in some cases, the other the most appropriate resource. There might be some interactions that could be routed maybe to another self-service bot, for example. So it's not really optimizing the routing from the technical perspective so much as it is finding the right match in order to improve first contact resolution.
Hope it answers the question which David asked. So another question by Iqbal. How do the AI contact center solutions interwork with the major apps used by consumers or users? For example, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, WebEx as user channels.
Yeah. So the way that Avaya is approaching this is with a composable architecture where we have foundational elements and then we're able to interface with numerous systems through APIs. So there's really, as another topic that we could dive into for quite some time is the API-based economy. And so we are opening up our platforms through low-code, no-code interfaces to enable even non-technical users to easily integrate with our solutions via APIs with various consumer-facing and even systems that contact centers may have employed on their own back ends.
Yeah. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you for the lovely answers, and hope the audience got the answers. So we'll now move on to our next presenter. Thank you, Thomas, for the lovely presentation and setting up the tone for the day. So we'll have Amir now.
Well, Thomas,
so
thank
Amir
you so much.
Is from Beyond Edge. Yeah, Amir.
Thomas, thank you so much. I might need your agent for muting some of my colleagues here. So I don't have Boston Terriers here, but some bulldogs, all the bulldogs.
Yeah, we'll talk later.
Yeah. So again, and Nitin, thank you for the opportunity to present. I will share a few slides. Oops. And with that, so. Nitin, as you said, Amir Elbaz from Beyond Edge, and I'm here to talk about the network automation and how elements of AI will be key for digital transformation. I would go and say that there is no single organization in this world that can afford not to have a digital transformation. And it's driven by consumers. Your consumers, the users of whatever product or service you're doing, they demand more automation, faster service. Thomas talked about, some aspect of the agent, and customer service, but it's all over. And it's happening in the cloud, but also in the edge. So what you have now big application in the cloud, edge is developing. The link between those what we do with that is we bring together the edge, SDN, and NFV, all these, magic words. But truly, it's the roles of the internet to move information from move packets from one side to the other.
Amir, your voice is having some problem. Amir, your audio is not coming properly. Yeah.
There was a problem?
No, there's a hazy type. Means we're not able to listen to you.
How about now?
No.
Nope. All right. So.
Yeah.
Good now?
No.
No. Okay. I log in and log back in. Log out and log back in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
You're back. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Murphy, my friend here, I've been having a perfect internet all day, but I think I'm proving my point, So
No issues.
let me share and quickly move to this. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know where you lost me, but thank you for Thomas for those couple minutes that I needed to fix these issues. So, so basically we bring it together, I think this was a perfect example how our life are depend on networks today, right? I mean, all over the world using networks to get together, especially at times of COVID when you cannot travel much. So what we help organizations with automation, that is the process to get to AI, because you need a lot of data to get that.
Your voice is again breaking. Sure.
All right. Hello? Hello?
Yeah. Yes.
Can you, I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. So can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I get some feedback. So, basically bringing all these five elements we talked about, reducing complexity of networks, rapid deployment, security. All those things are necessary for proper, digital transformation. So, but let's talk about the current state of the network, because, we're talking about AI and machine learning, all those other various things. Let's talk about what's actually happening today, according to Gartner. 70% of networks are still managed manually with command line interface. So it's basically the Stone Age. 56% of companies know what they have in their network. So, how can you have, or how can you make sure the service is going to be up to, if you don't know what components you need to address? And last but not least, human errors. Some of the largest companies in the world had network outages in the past, a couple of months because of human errors. Humans, we make mistakes. The problem is that with today's information, level of information and the abundance of information, any outage creates a cascading effect of data tsunami. So you have a data tsunami that basically you create a DDoS attack on yourselves when you come back from any network outage. Network outages are extremely expensive. 98% report a network outage of 1 hour of cost of $100,000. But a third of organization put that figure between $1 million to $5 million. So network outage not only creates a bad user experience, but also costing you a lot of money. So how do you address that? And I said, AI, that's the goal. That's what we need to get to. But there are steps in order to get there. The key step is, of course, to get to highest level of IA, intelligent automation. So you basically create a lot of rules for the network to be as autonomous as possible and generate the data. The first step is, of course, address the element of security. So NSOT, so network as a source of truth, is a term that Gartner came this last year. But basically, this is the way to integrate features like zero trust and others to basically create, and I'll touch it in the next slide, is a common, you're in the network, I trust you, the network authenticate you to be a member of this organization. Second step is to create a standard, those rules that I mentioned, repeatable rules that are kits that based on users. As a side note, our goal is to create profiles of the users of the network. Humans can be machines, applications, IoT, everything. And then focus on having this very, very powerful software that it could be completely abstracted from the devices and the control layer. So we talked about the network source of truth. In earlier, Thomas, you talked about the API economy. Yes, so we are victim of the APIs as well. Because it's the only way to get everything into a common area. So the 4 steps we talked about is to abstract the software, separate from the LAN device. Then to create those APIs for the database management, so you can collect all these things all these data points of which you're going to use to create the AI. And live view of the entire devices that you have in your network. So you need to see what you have, who's doing what, any given moment. So when I create this profile about a user, I can see, any deviations from it and remediate those. Some deviations can be because of human errors. Some deviations can be malicious act. People hacked into your network. Somebody came in and started pulling data. You can see that immediately and address that. Lock this, send security, etc. So all of this basically brings you to that baseline from which you create the deviation points. So we see AI is a key factor in everything that we do. But our world is the networking, and we are the enablers of all those amazing things that Thomas discussed earlier, and some of my colleagues here in the conference will talk later about how do you do all those, better customer service, better revenue generation, etc. So on the left side, you can see that those 4 points that I have. First, see what you have, so you know to manage it better in a fully automated way. Whether it's the devices that create the fabric, or the edge devices that are using it. An edge device, by the way, can be a security camera, Wi-Fi access point, a VoIP phone, any device that can, is network based. Then, you have those all these ports that are enabling those devices to connect. And how do you manage it in a sense of like, okay, who is allowed to use that? It's like, whether it's security features or even if I provide a service in a hotel, like, do I provide this kind of a connectivity? You provision them, with all the different QoS, but also security. We talked about MAC filtering, in other settings. We're going to have a lot of, security issues. I think it's a market that's going to go to the trillions of dollars. We hear every day about the different ransomware attack, breaches, etc. Having the ability to see, to visualize all your network, have AI to continuously monitor of who's doing what, why are they doing that, and alert. Figure out later is nice. What happened is nice, but it's not going to eliminate the damage. It's just going to make sure it doesn't happen. What we are trying to do with all this high level of automation and data collection and building AI models on the network with building the profile will help you address security issues when they happen. So what are the benefits we bring? Right now, we focus on local area networks for cooperation. As we grow in the telecom for bigger networks, we bring in the following 4 points on the right. Increased network resiliency. Your network needs to operate at the highest level in terms of 5 nines, in terms of how many hours in a year can you afford not to be up. So our approach is increase network resiliency. Take away the software or all the configuration from the hardware. Keep it in the software, and if you need to remediate failed hardware, it's just changing a phone. It's just changing one credential, and that's it. That all the configuration goes into the new device. We improve network security. We talked about that. I talked about it extensively about how we create an inventory of all the devices, create profiles of who's using what devices so we can see deviation from those. And using a lot of authentication tools, radio servers, and others to authenticate and create that network source of truth. Third point is to help and better the end user experience. I'm an end user, and you saw I had some network problems. I don't know what happened, but you could see the level of aggravation it causes, right? Network works perfect until my time to present. It needs to have a better user experience to make sure that, we serve our clients better and we are able to maximize the productivity of our organizations. Last but not least is reduce the operational cost. Network automation helps reduce the man hours involved managing networks, and as a result, you reduce your cost. Another element of cost reduction, which is not necessarily OPEX, but it's also the ability to use commercial off-the-shelf hardware, because the hardware is not important anymore. You can use white boxes, from friends at Facebook or Meta that are developing this common hardware that can be used for many, many different uses. We are big supporters of this organization. We're part of the OCP, Open Compute Project, and the TIP, the Telecom Infrastructure Project, and bringing new types of cost-effective hardware. So AI is going to be key for the livelihood and the life of everybody because of its important effect on networking, which is, of course, the key for our digital existence and the digital transformation. Happy to answer any questions. My email is amir.elbaz@BeyondEdge Networks. We're here based in Dallas, and if you have any questions, you can ask me now or reach out after.
Thank you, Amir. Thank you for the lovely presentation. Hope you're able to listen to me.
Oh, you? Yes. Yeah.
Okay, great. So if anybody you have any question, please type in the Q&A section, and Amir will be happy to help. I'll just take 1 minute in case you have any questions. Just to let all of you know, in case you have any questions, you can keep typing in the Q&A section so that we can get it answered. So there's a question by David Steve. How we expecting advanced AI root causes analysis in telecom operations?
So there are two elements. Our network continuously audit the agents that you have on each device, whatever they do that. And we see anomalies between, on the layer 2 specifically. And we can see things, for before they happen, before failures, and when they happen. One of the quickest thing or tools that we developed is called a slice view. So you can search a specific point, and you will see end to end on the layer 2 in a millisecond. You could see the path of this packet it's going to take, and with that you'll be able to see where are the issues. Then you can troubleshoot, go to the device, try to fix the issue. If not, like I said, replace it very quickly.
Hope it answered the question by David. Yeah?
So Nitin, I don't know if you have I can share my presentation later through the conference. I know we had some problems with the with the presentation. I don't know what happened there, but
no issues. I think So just to let all the audience know that we'll try to get all the presentations from the speakers, and I've written in the chat that we'll share it to all of you who have registered for the event. As well as our recordings are there in the YouTube channel of our company. You can like the social media handle, the YouTube and the Facebook channel. You will get the recording live, what we are doing today. Yeah. And the previous events as well. Thank you, Amir. Thank you for the lovely presentation.
Thanks.
Thank you. We'll stay connected. Thanks. So, Nikunj, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Great. So, guys, we'll have our next presenter, Nikunj is there, who is from Amazon. And his topic is how AI is transforming the telecom industry. So, over to you, Nikunj.
Thank you, Nathan. Okay. Is the screen visible?
Okay, you can make it in the presentation mode. I think it's in the...
I have put it in the presentation mode now.
Oh. Any one of you can reconfirm?
I still see the sides, so this is a mirror, and I don't see it in the presentation mode. I don't know why.
Okay. Okay, if that's not happening, I did put in presentation. Let me just make sure that I maximize the screen over here.
Yeah, it's looking good now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you all for having me over here. Excited and glad to learn from all the peers. Very good presentation by Amir. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Just want to clarify one thing before we get started. All the views in this are my personal views, nothing endorsed or recommended by Amazon. Okay. Just to start off, and this is something with all the experts over here are very well aware of, but the overall AI global market for telecom has been increasing significantly, and the projections seem to be over 40% compound annual growth rate. And this is something which is not new, as we all know, and we would hear with other presentations as well. It's already in place, and in quite a big way in certain use cases. However, I think the potential is still not tapped to the full extent. But if you look at the companies such as AT&T, Verizon, Vodafone, Comcast, they've already been using AI, particularly for customer service and predictive analytics, and a few other use cases around fraud detection and all that I'm familiar with, which I'll cover a little later in the discussion. Some of the challenges, and some of these challenges are exacerbated by, if you look at the way COVID or the pandemic has hit us, right? And telcos have been kind of unsung heroes for this pandemic. We have all been able to continue with our lives in some or the other way because of the telecom operators stepping up to the increased bandwidth demands, increased number of services, and then enabling all of us to be able to work remotely, right? Whoever can work remotely, of course. But overall, it has put a lot of additional pressure onto the networks, and telcos have stepped up pretty well across the world. Some of the unique challenges is the demand trends are kind of mixed at this time, again, because of the pandemic. There has been a fall in the demand for the new devices and the roaming services, as we can all understand. Positive side, there has been a reduced churn in the customers. This is specific for one, the number over here is specific for one European telco, but I think people are looking for more stability as well. In terms of supply,
I'm sorry, Nick, your slides aren't advancing. We're still seeing the first slide.
Oh, okay.
Oh, thank you.
I think, you know what, because I put it in the presentation mode, and the moment I put it in presentation mode, I think, okay, I'll just go over here rather than using the presentation for myself. So here were the couple of other slides. And then I'm on this one, talked about demand and now the supply piece. So the supply of equipments, devices is becoming harder, as we know, and we are in the middle of the 5G rollout across the world, which is impacting the rollout itself. In terms of the operations, there are staff shortages across the board, across all the industries that we are seeing right now. And there's a lack of component supplies. And of course, the overloaded networks that we talked about. The customer service piece, again, staff shortages, and there is an increased expectation of personalized service. And this comes from the fact that we are looking at a lot of different industries converging. Customers are now comparing the experiences that they have across different industries and expecting the same from telcos. And in terms of the business operations, boosting and protecting the employee morale, even the retention of the employees is becoming difficult. And at the same time, with the new skill set that is required, remotely reskilling and upskilling the staff is at a higher cost. We'll go into a couple of use cases. So just to start with an example over here, I had worked on a customer churn prediction for wireless customers at one of the largest telcos. And even with the 6 months of data that we took as a pilot, we could predict up to 70% with up to 70% accuracy based on the customer behavior, how likely is the customer is likely to churn, right? Basically port out to another provider. That shows the power of having a one-to-one relation that you can build by predicting if there is a customer who's likely to churn, which means that you could have targeted offers, you could have targeted relationship building, and there are telcos who are trying to do that. One example of this was where I think one of the telcos in the emerging markets was able to do a highly personalized one-on-one segmentation, because of which in the prepaid segments also they could increase their revenues by 12% in just less than a year's worth of period. Overall, AI can help us create better customer profiles, take more proactive measures through multiple channels, and help in retention. Profit maximization, it's basically focusing more on the existing customers. While we all need to make sure that we are acquiring new customers, we also need to make sure that we are maximizing the profit with the existing customers, and that all helps through customer profiling, and churn prediction is one of the aspects of the profiling. And then identification of the root causes, right? This is really a key. If you understand why the customers are leaving, it helps you understand what are the root causes of the issues that your organization has, and then it becomes a strategic input for the telecom services to figure out what services, what products need improvement, or if there are new services or products that needs to be introduced in the market. Network optimization, I think this is something which comes at the top of the list for everybody when we talk about AI in telecom. So I won't go a lot into the details, but essentially looking at self-optimizing networks, looking at data patterns, right, that can help predict the anomalies. I think this is one area I can not emphasize enough. While we look at rule-based monitoring to figure out, if there are any issues in the network and predict the failures, but then looking at anomalies and then correlating those anomalies to what happened in the past can be a very powerful tool for us to, one, avoid an outage or a reduction in the service quality. And secondly, also identify the root cause based on the data patterns that we look at. Right? And second important aspect is the capacity planning. So all this data that we are collecting over a period of time, looking at that and then inputting that into the planning and the capacity tools. I've done a little bit of this in the past, and just, I think, scratch the surface, but I think it is very, very powerful, especially when you're looking at the software-defined network. Predictive maintenance, this is another very strong area. Identifying the issues before the customers are impacted, and then looking at the data for network design. Again, this goes back to when you look at the maintenance data, that can also give a very strong input for the future network design, especially when we are rolling out newer services and networks. And then leveraging AI for proactive analytics, prioritization of the issues as well, and then looking at the correlation between the different events. So this is also very powerful. I think we can so much think about how we can correlate the information and do a rule-based configuration. But if we are able to look at the patterns in the data and then come up with the correlations, I think it can give us very powerful insights into overall quality of service, what are the aspects of the predictive maintenance that we need to look at, as well as how we can improve the customer experience overall. This is again something which becomes one of the most important aspects across different industries, right? And one of the first use cases that a lot of industries adopted, that is the customer service. I'll tell you that with, again, very limited inputs, there's a significant ROI that we can get. Answering the basic questions, I as a customer, when I look at it, I would rather have a virtual assistant, if it's efficient enough to answer my questions, than wait on a queue to talk to somebody. If I can get my answers quickly, that's what everybody's looking for. And that's what next millennial is looking for as well. I had a very interesting discussion with one of the college students as to, I was looking at a project to, for a digital transformation of a university. And I was looking at it from a student's perspective, because those are the customers in a way. That what is it that they would look for? They're always looking out for information from the university on different aspects. And they said, we rather would not talk to anybody, but if you can get the information by self-service, that's the number one priority. And that's what the next generation is looking at. And I think we need to be ready for that generation. A lot of different so-called customer delight that we can generate. If there is a service issue, you can proactively correlate, do automated refunds, compensate the customers, and that even if there was a negative experience, you can end it up with at least some compensation which results into a customer delight, right? Okay, you took care of the customer in one or the other way. And with simple implementations like chatbot, right? Vodafone saw that when they introduced Toby, they had a 68% improvement in the customer satisfaction. And then there is a next generation of virtual assistants. We talk about the chatbots, but Google Assistant, Alexa, they are in a lot of homes already. How should we use those to effectively serve the customers through different channels rather than just coming to your website or calling your call center? Right? I'd done a small proof of concept with Alexa in the past in my previous job. And the reaction was very, very positive that I got from a lot of customers. A lot of other use cases, fraud detection, definitely one of them. When I was working on one of the earlier programs, we used to run more than 200 different rule sets for fraud detection on just the order processing. And then we figured that this used to take a lot of time, and it created a backlog of orders especially when you are launching new devices. So we figured that there has to be a better way. We used machine learning over there to identify that based on the order parameters, which are the rule sets that we need to run to most effectively identify the fraud. And then there can be a next layer of fraud detection. But then so overall that reduced on an average the number of rule sets that we need to run by almost 90%, right? Almost 15 to 20%. 15 to 20 rule sets would be good enough for us to identify if an order is fraudulent. Similarly, used intelligent RPA for device unlock use case that generated savings of about almost in millions on a recurring basis. Order follow-up management, this was something where we implemented a use case to identify if how likely an order is going to fall out. What that means is this was more important on a B2B side, where the order parameters are way more complex than on B2C. And then looking at those parameters to see what is the potential fallout ratio over here, and then the next step is to identify proactively remediating those parameters so that the order goes through, or giving that information to the agent proactively so that the processing time for fallout is reduced significantly. Other pieces, document validation, as simple as I think driver's license or simulated deployment letters, looking at those automatically and processing those so that we are able to reduce the human involvement over here. The second last, NLP for recording the information while on the field. So this was a very interesting use case I got from one of the customers earlier, again in my previous job, was to record the information. So when a site survey is being done, rather than inputting all the information manually or writing it on a notepad or putting it on a device, if we can have a simple way for the engineers or the surveyors to just say the information, right, and then translate that based on the intelligence that we have from industry-specific use cases, translate that to the actual design or maybe a layout of a map. This was a use case which I started working on and then I moved on, but I think this has a very high potential, especially to help the field operators. And then, of course, segment of one concept that we talked about for bundled offerings. So looking at that to see what cross-sell, upsell can we do. There is a potential for telcos to actually identify the needs of the customer and go into other services as well. Not specific AI use case, but if you look at with more and more people working from home, there is higher need for additional peripheral services, video calls, etc., which can be bundled with the customer offers. And that would mean, especially for small businesses, that could mean that they have reduced cost and higher revenue for the telcos, essentially. There is a two-sided potential. One is cost reduction and one is, of course, increasing the revenue. This is something which I took from BCG survey. But if you look at it, I'm not going to read through all the numbers, but there is a significant estimate and a lead generation increase of about 1.5%. That is significant, right? If you have an upsell and cross-selling opportunities that go from 2 to 3.5%, that is significant. Any cost reduction of 1 to 2% also is significant. So if you look at all these different use cases, I think there is a huge potential for the telcos. I think next, I want to look at what are the roadblocks, right? It's not that the organizations don't really recognize the importance. Some do, some do not, maybe to the extent that it is possible, but still, what are the key roadblocks? One is the proof of value. So there is some level of skepticism in terms of the ROI. And that is where the leadership support could be insufficient. I think getting that right level of leadership support and educating the leadership, I think, is going to be the key. And then I've also seen a lot of isolated initiatives of AI, right? Different organizations experimenting with a few different things, but it does not create a unified value that we are looking at across the organization that would eventually help the customers better. Data, this remains, I think, this is unanimous. This remains the biggest problem, the lack of visibility. Telcos collect a lot of different data across different channels through operations, customer service, even the customer journeys on the websites. But how to unify all of that information and create a visibility that can then translate to intelligent decision making, right? I think lack of visibility of that data and access to that data across the organization, having the right level of data lakes created so that you have that correlation possible, and then the quality of data itself and standardization. And another key, I think telcos have started putting in efforts for ownership, but that was another problem where different pieces of data were owned by different parts of the organization. That still remains a bit siloed, but a unified effort to bring all of it together, at least under one umbrella, from a governance standpoint would actually help. There has been a high reliance on the vendors as well, which is not good or bad, but it's about the fact that this could be fragmented solutions, right? Again, bringing all of it together is the key. And while deciding on the solutions, we need to look at how do they interplay with each other. People part, there's a lack of skill set. We don't have enough number of engineers that we need. Unclear organizational model. And then overall, from a change management standpoint, looking at what training is needed, what anticipated and unanticipated impacts are, and then overall creating the awareness in the organization. Some of the recommendations based on my experience, that should be a team-based cross-functional approach. One team cannot implement AI in telco to create true value. And it should be embedded at the core of all the products and processes that we have. Leadership support is key. So making sure that leadership is informed and updated all along the way and educated so that we have the right level of sponsorship, even in terms of funding, as well as in terms of prioritization. And take an agile approach, which means that don't look at a big bang, but look at incremental value creation. And I think once people start seeing the value, you will have more and more buy-in and more support across the organization. And creating, I think we have talked about this, data and the systems which provide the right level of standardization as well as governance. And then this last one, break down the siloed complexity. This is very, very key. Again, this is where the integration of different systems come into play. That would then help scale AI to an extent where, again, it starts creating true value for the customers. So those are my thoughts. Hope you had something to take out of this, and looking forward to any questions.
Thank you, Nikunj. Thank you for the lovely presentation and giving a lovely insight and recommendations. Yeah, it was excellent. So guys, any questions? Yeah, so there are questions. There's a question which asked by David. So what are the areas of AI impact in telecom?
Well, the areas of AI impacting telecom.
Impact in telecom, yeah.
Okay. I think I would take it up in stages, right? I think the biggest impact that you can have is in the customer service. That is the most frustrating aspect. So if you can implement AI in a way that it affects the customer service first and foremost, in a way that, I'll give you an example. One of the use cases that I was working on is around the technical support. So when you look at technical support, it is usually if I have to think of technical support, it's about 40-45 minutes of call. And if there is a way that telecom, and there is a way, I mean, I created a solution around this earlier, but having the information proactively from the devices, say, for example, the broadband device at home, having that information and looking at the ways what could potentially be wrong. And when I call, customer service knows proactively why I'm calling, what could be the potential issue, and give me troubleshooting steps pretty quickly. If you can reduce that call from 45 minutes to 15 minutes or 10 minutes, that is a big win. And second part to this, as I said, this is in stages. Second part of this is, I would say, if you know what the problem is, try to solve that before the customer even calls. So I think wherever there's a customer touch point, start with that. That includes networks as well, because that is the key service that the telcos are providing. So if the service is right, and if there's a problem, you can serve the customers right. I think those are the two touch points I would start with. And then, of course, proliferate to other use cases in the organization.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Nikunj. Thank you for the presentation and the lovely answer to the question. Any other question which you have? We are on time. We can take a question if it comes. Otherwise, we can move on to our next talk. Just wait for 10 more seconds.
Okay.
Thank you. I think this was the one. So, yeah. So there's one question. Okay, Nikunj, are you there? I think he just, okay. Just now it got. So anyway, we can have it in the panel discussion. So guys, we'll next quickly move on to, okay, you are there? You are there, Nikunj, okay. So how will AI and ML integration in telecom drive security for the end user?
Very interesting. So two ways. One is the fraud detection part that I partially talked about. That will help make sure that from a customer standpoint, nobody is actually using my identity if you can have that validation in place. And then secondly, from a telecom or from a company standpoint, it reduces the revenue leakage. From a network standpoint, just making sure that you are looking at anomalies, you're looking at identifying the ways customers are trying to, even for example, if I am hosting my service through a telco, and if telco is able to identify before even I can identify that there could be a brute force attack coming in, right? Again, through anomaly detection, if the traffic is higher than what it usually is at this time of the day, that is a way you can protect my business. Right? So there are multiple different use cases in a way where AI and machine learning, I think a machine learning is more applicable than the broader AI over here, because then you are looking at historical information and then correlating at the anomaly detection to look at what are the potential threats. And then look at if that anomaly is related to a security threat. If so, then take proactive measures and actions around it. I would love to go into specifics of some of the use cases over here, but I'll respect time and I can have an offline conversation on that.
Sure. Thank you, Nikunj. Thank you for the lovely presentation and the lovely answers to the questions. So we'll quickly move on to our next discussion. That is a panel discussion. So may we have Chitrey, Sashi, Doug, Mustafa to come. The theme of the panel discussion is Future of AI in Telecom Space. So Chitrey is CTIO, InfoVision is the moderator, and I'll let him do the talking. Over to you, Chitrey. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you able to hear me properly, Nitin?
Yes.
Perfect.
We can see all four of you. Yeah.
Good morning, Shashi, Doug, and Mustafa. Thanks for joining.
Good morning.
Perfect. Hope everyone is having a nice day. And there's a lot of wonderful presentation. People are presenting it, really good information. I really love it. We know that a lot of the technology is booming. I'm seeing there's a lot of technology transformation is happening, especially after COVID. Big focus is going on in the industry and the technology side, especially a lot of IoT devices, especially I'm seeing it, IoT or AI/ML, computer vision or digital twin, augmented reality. Facebook moved from Facebook to metaverse. So there's a lot of 3D spaces, everything is coming. But end of the day, you need as a backbone of Wi-Fi, internet, all. This is the backbone, right? So whatever technology comes, still without this telecom technology, you cannot achieve any of these new upcoming technology innovations. So I'm really, we are talking about the backbone of the entire innovation in the world. Definitely, I'd like to start talking about a quick introduction about us. So I already myself introduced in multiple meetings, but again, this is Chitra Imani. I'm the Chief Technology and Innovation Officer from Infovision, as well as the CEO of Digit7 Labs. A quick introduction from others as well. Please, Shashi and Mustafa and Daud.
Hey, good morning. I'm Shashi Kiran. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Aryaka Networks. We are a provider and technology innovator for managed SD-WAN and security solutions with global enterprise customer deployments.
Hello, my name is Mustafa Ergen. I am the founder of Ambient, and Ambient is specializing in managing the unlicensed spectrum for better digital experience. We utilize device-centric data with artificial intelligence. We extract information for better spectrum usage as well as visibility to the home user experience.
Thank you, Doug.
My name is Doug Turpin. I'm the CEO of Lightwave Solutions. We've sold over 1 million business customers over the last 30 years. And we use AI to help customers to optimize their solution, save money, enhance their productivity, and to get better performance from their network.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction to all of you. Let me start with the conversation of, I know there is a lot of topic about the telecom. It's a very wonderful topic we are going to discuss about it. So let me start with the backbone of telecom side, especially any industry, right? The backbone of how even you can invent a lot, but if you are not doing the marketing it well or bringing the hype to the industry well, it's not going to soar, right? So just starting with the question to Shashi, especially as a Chief Marketing Officer. So how AI is helping marketing industry, so in especially telecom or anything you can pick up generally?
Look, AI is something that has a very broad applicability across a variety of different use cases, right? And if you look at tying it back to telco environments, the applicability of AI can be either in the front end where you have customers, users, applications interfacing with it, and or it can be at the back end where you're looking at your operations and looking to see how do you take advantage of the data, because a lot of the telcos, the advantage is they have this huge ability to go collect data at different touch points, and the sample space there is extraordinarily large. And then it is really a question of how do you take this data and manipulate it in a way that you can bring that into machine learning and AI constructs and gain insights from it and act upon it. So from a customer engagement perspective, which is perhaps where I think your question was alluding to, and from a marketing standpoint, it's really today most telcos are known to convey a very bad user experience. You look at the net promoter scores for a number of telcos, they really suck. And a lot of that is because they are not able to respond to the needs of prospects or customers or manage change or get into things in a proactive way. And even when they are being reactive, it is a challenge because the correlation to find out what's not working is an issue. And all of this degrades customer experience, which means the loyalty for somebody to stick with a particular vendor is really a function of what particular incentive or offer they have ongoing at any given instant of time. And as soon as that is done, they switch, and the cost of acquiring a new customer becomes very high. So here is where, I think telcos in general can be proactive to take advantage of what these touch points and engagements, and I would call this as micro engagements that customers have, prospects have, and translate that into meaningful insights that either allow them to acquire new customers in a way that is consistent with what they're looking for, or retain existing ones and not be surprised when they eject, right? So I think this is one area where we can dive deep into from at least a marketing touchpoint perspective for acquisition and retention and elevating the experience in general.
Perfect. So Doug and Mustafa, do you like to take that question too, or to move to the next questions?
I can also mention what we are doing in terms of AI. So we built 3 engines with AI. One of them is optimization, other one is prediction, and the third one is classification. So we use AI to solve a complicated integer optimization problem. Because what we are doing is spectrum management. So we have to allocate channels to each access point. And if you think about a Wi-Fi network, it's a network without boundary. Right? It's in unlicensed spectrum, and even, for instance, in New York, every kilometer square there are more than 3,000 or access point, and every kilometer square is connected to another kilometer square. So you have to solve a huge mixed integer program. So what we use AI to speed up this process, and we can come up with a solution within minutes. Second one, when we aggregate the data, we try to come up with a prediction. So we try to learn what the network will look like 1 hour later, 1 week later, or 1 month later. So this way, with the aggregated data, with the usage patterns inside that data, we can be able to extract information and then predict what the network looks like. Third one is classification. So we also get customer complaints from the customers, from our ASP customers. They give us the customer ID and when they do the complaint, and we get maybe 100 parameters of that customer, built an engine, and next time a similar parameters comes into picture, we can say that this customer is likely to complain or not. So this way, we utilize the AI to understand, macro level engines. Of course, I can delve into details about what we are doing in terms of Wi-Fi user experience. But pretty much, when we aggregate the data, as Sashi mentioned, from the endpoints or any other network nodes, AI has a good usage for better digital experience.
Got it. Yeah, go ahead.
To kind of add on to what they've just said, and also a point that Amir made earlier in the presentation, he said that 26% of customers actually know what they have. And in my experience, I've been in this business for 30 years. That is the most under-noticed and underused aspect of AI. And that's where we've tried to attack the customer experience and provide additional value. We'll use AI to automate customers' billing, reading customers' billing, their CSRs, and build them an actual sourceable, usable inventory. That is an absolute key, because if you don't know what you have, then you can't very well use AI or run your business. You can't effectively manage services. Most customers can understand that AI is very useful when you're throwing gigabits of data from the network in trying to put it into a usable interface. But what is not really noticed is the value of the inventory itself, down to the line item detail, where you're getting every circuit, every phone number, every piece of network that a customer has. Because the goal of using AI is to keep a customer from being down and then to enhance their productivity. If you don't know what they have, you're not going to effectively be able to keep them from going down, and you're not going to be able to get the full value that you can from AI. So we've built automated interfaces using our Envision platform to help a customer actually understand what they have, and then we can deliver 20 to 45% savings from helping them to optimize their network and getting better products and services. So we find that also we can use AI to take carrier notifications. We've got a customer now with 7,000 locations in retail, and we're deploying a new network for an SD-WAN. Well, we get all kinds of notifications from the carriers to our platform constantly. You can use those to understand and to build in all kinds of predictive analytics to discover problems. You can use it in the installation process. As Sashi said, the carriers aren't very good in installation, performance, service. They often suck in terms of the actual end user experience. If you use AI properly and you're managing the installation of new services or existing services, you can get all kinds of alerts from the carriers. You can learn to read them. You can learn to predict problems that will cause, if a retail location is not able to get something installed and it's getting ready to open, that's going to be a disaster. Well, you can use AI to understand if there's all kinds of problems that are going to develop with the installation process and reconfigure orders. Put in wireless solutions as temporary solutions in there. Managed services, you can use AI to interpret all kinds of feedback that you're going to get from a customer, is whether they're up or down. But now slow is the new down. That's something that really resonates with a lot of the CIOs. If you've got pretty good ways of understanding your equipment inventories, pretty good ways of understanding what software you have. You can put probes on the network and understand those kind of things. But what you can't do very well with all the different silos and all the different tools is pull it together in one comprehensive service and use managed services to see if the software isn't working very well on equipment, or is the equipment actually down. If you can pull that all together and use AI to manage all of that information, then you can keep a customer from having poor performance from their equipment, their software, or their network, and tie it all together.
Thank you, Doug. It's kind of more elaborated touching point of everything you guys are touching on the area of data, especially you guys are focusing on the data. Let me get into the question a little bit more deeper. So the question is relevant to how to adapt to new customers. How AI is going to help the telecom can adapt new customers. Let me put this a little bit additional to that one marketing standpoint. So how AI will help you to adapt new customers. For example, all of you are supporting the telecom industry, right? So the 5G, I want to adapt more 5G customers. Right, it's booming a lot now, 5G perspective. How you can guide them or help the customer to adapt to this new technology? What is the way AI will help into that side?
I would say it can go back to getting an inventory of the customer's current services and seeing where do they need that technology? What do they have now? With wireless, you can save the average customer anywhere from 20 to 45% by optimizing their services. They've got all kinds of things that they're not using. They've got employees that have left and they just don't realize it. There's all kinds of devices and new technology that they can utilize, but first they have to understand what they have. And then you can start providing them services. You can give them new routers, new wireless technology. You can tie it all together. But you have to understand what they have before you can start offering them solutions that are going to be useful to them.
But what are the innovative way? Because in the industry currently it's going on. People are trying to promote through AR, VR, right? Because it's more kind of contactless experience is going on in the industry. You are not going to reach to the customer, right? The adoption of AR, VR, 3D modeling, how that industry is helping you to adapt to the new customer, and especially AR, VR industry is booming a lot for marketing perspective. Because a lot of companies trying to going towards the direction of, hey, how we can go to AR, VR side, we can adapt new customer to bring the experience of, hey, this is how your 5G is going to look like, what you have now, what you don't have now. That's the way I'm trying to get some area. That's fine. Let me move on to the next question of, someone really asked, I think it's David, area of impact in telecom. I know there is a lot of impacts in telecom, especially if you talk about customer service, satisfaction, fraud detection, predictive maintenance, or network. A lot of areas there. But which one is very critical for telecom companies to focus in AI perspective? If you want to say that is big impact, will create impact to the telecom industry. Mustafa, you want to start with?
Yeah, actually, in terms of AI, VR, of course, we can talk about the, 5G ultra reliable, low latency communication. That's it's kind of the killer app for your LLC. In terms of fixed broadband, of course, the managing the churn is an issue, and because today, we are relying on Wi-Fi, and it's a box that people plug in. But if there's something happening, nobody knows what's going on, right? Everyone thinks that's a Wi-Fi issue unless otherwise noted. And it's very complicated for a user to figure out what the problem is. And it's very sophisticated to resolve this over a phone line. And it's very costly to understand this, with a technician, right? So that's why you need to understand the network. You need to get a visibility to the network. And this problem is become more severe with work from home. The reason is maybe 30% of the workforce will be remotely connected to the network. And earlier, IT departments are responsible from the Wi-Fi network at the office. They use, enterprise Wi-Fi, carrier-grade solutions. Now they have to be responsible from remote employees, where they cannot control the ISP, they cannot control the Wi-Fi equipment. So they have to figure out what the real problem is, if there's a Zoom conversation, and they have to come up with a remedy with the existing hardware, plus offer a ISP connectivity or a high-end gear. So these are all unknowns, and this comes with the COVID, actually. And that's where we need to get more data to resolve these issues. And AI will help us for resolving these issues and help us in onboarding, as Doug mentioned. And as we have means to collect more data, we will have a smoother digital experience. On the 5G side, on the licensed spectrum side, of course, AR/VR is something that industry is looking for a while, and it's a chicken and egg problem because if you are going to come up with the AR/VR solution, it's not like for consumer use; it's the industry use. So there has to be a third party that has to associate with the telco to offer those services. And if it is the health, there have to be health companies to offer to request that low latency communication, robust communication, so that they will come up with that AR/VR application. Otherwise, AR/VR has been tried many times with for consumer use, and there was no good revenue or monetization out of that. But with coming up with fibers, broadband networks, edge networking, I think AR/VR, when we meet with the industry, we will have the for the 5G, and it will be pretty soon, I believe. Thank you.
Sure. Shashi, any point of view on this one?
Well, I agree with what Mr. was saying. It's very hard to say, I'm going to get this AI technology and have it applied to all the different kinds of use cases in a telco environment. That's currently not feasible because most of the AI stacks that we've seen are really tailored towards certain use cases, and you need to stitch together, different platforms to have that end-to-end value chain. So most, companies that are customer facing will need to better understand their value chain, first of all, right? And see where can applying this kind of technology help them either in gaining efficiencies, increasing, customer satisfaction or experience, or really being able to operate with increased agility. And so based on that, I think you have to hone in on which area you will start to apply this in. And for example, we're sort of an untelco because we have our own technology, but we also built out a global network that we take as close to, the knowledge worker as possible. And for us, we have, artificial intelligence more at the back end where our support engineers, they deliver a managed service. And they're able to, based on the data that they're collecting, figure out when an issue can occur before it actually occurs. So rather than going and reacting to an incident, if you can be proactive based on the type of signals that you're seeing, then, it's easier for them to go manage a situation. In many cases, the incident may not be related to something that we have. It could be related to something that's externally dependent. But by being able to correlate based on the patterns that we have on a global footprint, you can bring the benefits of what we're seeing in one customer environment and correlate that to another environment and say, hey, we're seeing the same patterns here, and could it be an issue that's replicating? For example, last year when this whole pandemic started, we had customers in China, and we were seeing the traffic start to dip there in many of those sites because China was going through a bit of a lockdown, and the shift to remote workers were happening there. The rest of the world was insulated. If you look at February of 2020, it was just news coming out of China at that time. And we were able to sort of take that pattern and prepare for shifting a lot of that traffic to other points of presence that we have globally. And then when we started seeing that happen in other countries and other continents, it was very easy for us to detect that as a trend and be able to be proactive, where even ahead of customers coming and telling us, hey, this is what we want to do, we could go to them and offer that up as a solution and make that change happen very quickly, almost overnight. So these are some use cases. And again, some AI use cases are an overkill. They're nice to have. And I think to your question about AR, VR, it's still a very consumer-centric technology, right? In the enterprise B2B space, it's not very prevalent where somebody would actually go do something meaningful with it. But if you're a gaming company, you're associated with the telco and you're offering gaming solutions, you need high bandwidth, maybe it's an incentive for you to go offer up, to the end user a higher bandwidth offering, right? So things like that are what you can bring about right now.
Beautiful, Mustafa and Shashi, and very, very, very deep insight about that questions. Thank you so much. And I'm trying to move on to some of the other questions. How AI can secure the telecom industry? Because that is one of the important area. Everyone is into B2C or B2B, all the area. Still, people are, I'm quite not confident to say we are very secure even 5G comes up. No, we are not, right? Because 5G level of technology is booming more. I don't see the level of security is enabled for 5G level at this moment. That's why I'm seeing a lot of other technologies are evolving as well. But what do you see in your view in the industry? How AI is helping to secure the telecom industry, especially the 5G boom?
Well, I see wireless being used in SD-WAN and customers' migration to SD-WAN as an always up in a fairly inexpensive way to, put a cradle point or some other router out there in retail locations to make sure that their credit card machines, the lifeblood of their industry, never goes down. They never go experience, any type of outages. And there's a big movement to deploying SD-WAN. But where we see the customers really struggle is they can't use wireless, they can't use wireline if they don't have their inventories. They can't migrate to SD-WAN. That's usually going to save them a huge amount of money, give them big productivity increases, but they're not able to implement these things because they don't know what they have. So if you can use AI to start examining bills and understanding what they have, if you can use AI to take customer service records and you can combine that with contracts, then you can understand the current environment and you can present solutions for them to migrate to, say, an SD-WAN. So there's a lot of use cases for that.
The question is more towards security side, right? How, because what you're talking about more kind of getting the data and going to how to improve the experience of how to go in that side. But my question is relevant to more security side. How AI in the security aspect of the telecom, how it can improve more. That's the area I'm trying to go. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Well, if one of these other gentlemen wants to talk more about the security aspect of things, that might be more on their point.
Sure. Mustafa and Shashi would like to pick up.
We are not security expert. We haven't. We are not looking at the security part of the solution. What we do is we apply anomaly detection with the data.
Yeah, here we go. So I think what you guys, all of you are covering still network data, right? Because I see a lot of network data, including B2B or B2C. The anomaly detection is one of the important area I would like to talk about as well. It's a supervised, unsupervised, a lot of reinforcement learning, a lot of stuff for AI is trying to blend into that side, which you're tracking it already, which you already talked about it. I'm not only talking about how it is going to attack, it's going to talk about hackers. I'm still trying to see preventive maintenance as well as predictive analytics on the existing data will also be part of the security, because the 5G side, there's a lot of different kind of devices, IoT devices. So how that is going to blend and how those data is going to be hacked, how the AI can help you to secure in the network layer is also important, because I see a lot of first packet authentication technology is coming up in the industry. SD-WAN, definitely no question about it. And I'm trying to understand a little bit on that aspect of, you are right on the spot, Mustafa. Yeah, get on to that.
Yeah, so we have the limited use of anomaly detection. So what we do is we collect the data from endpoints, typically from the mobile phones or end user devices. And we also track the number of connected devices to the access points. And if there is a sudden jumps, we try to understand what the problem is. Maybe the password is cracked or somebody else is using the Wi-Fi password, or so we try to alarm them to the customer. This is a limited usage of security. Of course, if you also collect the data from the network, anomaly detection becomes much more fruitful. And so I also agree with you that with the data, with mass amount of data, networks will be more secure as long as you define the problem right in terms of what to look at.
Because you have a lot of layers here. Palo Alto Sample is a big player in the industry who is trying to protect a lot of data and the market anomaly detection. Like that, there's a lot of other companies are coming to the market. How I'm going to secure you in all the layers, layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All the layers they're trying to give a position. Shashi, do you have any point on that one?
No, I agree. The security stack is very fragmented, right? Even the biggest security vendors are able to only take ownership of certain aspects of the stack. And to the point that Mustafa was making, one is really about being able to detect anomalies. Second is the speed at which you can do it. Right? Today, there are a number of software technologies that are deployed to go detect anomalies, but the attack surface is changing so rapidly. And it has also become so much more exponentially bigger that it is not just important for you to detect something, but the speed of detection and the accuracy of detection becomes very important, right? So you don't get into a number of false positives. And here is where I think AI can become much more valuable, because today there are so many false positives that come about, especially in an attack surface vector that is quite large. And that by itself can be an overhead for teams that are really not equipped to deal with that kind of scale. So if you can really build an AI model, and again, going back to the use cases, you have to figure out where you deploy it, from endpoint at the back end for privilege authentication, in data coming in from different sources. Look at pattern matching, anomaly detection, minimize the false positives, and then make it much more actionable. Right? So those are the things that I think telcos are particularly equipped to do, because they do own the value chain almost on an end-to-end basis. And today we see a number of cloud providers maybe getting into the shoes of the traditional telcos. Many of them have built out their own networks. Right. They are trying to reach to the end users by themselves. And so it poses a different kind of dynamic when they are coming into a particular cloud, or if they are going outside a particular cloud into a more hybrid deployment. And so I think those are the areas I see AI being applied just to minimize the complexity in the spaghetti.
What I can say that to that point is, I've got sales engineers that are far more technical in terms of the deep knowledge of the security versus what I would know. But I do see lots of the different telcos selling all different types of security solutions, and I see customers having all the different kinds of silos with tools that they're using. And very often the voice and the data people are using different tools. They've got different people managing it, and the customers struggle with security. There could be all kinds of issues where their networks are vulnerable to being hacked, and the usage charges can be enormous. So you can use managed services, you can use AI to start detecting customers that aren't patching their services, that aren't that have all kinds of vulnerabilities. There are all kinds of different tools that you can put together in a comprehensive package that are cross-carrier and cross-technology to begin using AI to discover where a customer is vulnerable and to take proactive steps to avoid them being in a position where they can either get hacked on their data or get hacked on their network. We've seen customers that have had $100,000 plus fraud charges that can happen in days. So if you can protect a customer from those kinds of things using AI, using managed services in combination, then you can really derive a lot of value for them.
Absolutely. You nailed it. That's a beautiful point as well. So just moving toward, I know all of you are in the AI space a lot. So a lot of people the industry is looking for a lot of talent in the AI space, right? How are you trying to solving this, the number of skill set available in the industry is very demands nowadays is going on. There's a demand, the number of demands is higher than number of resource availability. So how are you solving that problem in your organization that will help to other telecom industry as well? It is more relevant to skill set perspective. Are you guys training them, or you try to hire them directly? Because the technologies keep going to the next level. It's not enough people to learn already coming with you. So what is the model you are giving some kind of suggestion to the industry people? This is the way it's best to bring the talented people and stuff. You bring them from talent or train them. So what are the way you guys are fulfilling your requirement in the industry, especially after COVID?
For us, I am also a professor in Istanbul Technical University, and I teach also AI. And what we do is we give projects, and we also force students to learn programming in AI. And then, of course, those are also potential candidates for our startups, and it's how we create that funnel. So that's our way of.
So that's a way of solving your problem. Okay. Shashi and Doug.
Yeah, in general, talent is always a challenge, right? I mean, the industry is very competitive. And depending on whether you're hiring talent for developing AI-based technologies, which is more on the engineering side, or somebody who's actually taking advantage of AI constructs in their day-to-day lives. For example, in our support and delivery organizations, we take advantage of that to supplement the human experience and to scale it. I think on one hand, you see almost every domain being impacted by AI, right? It's not something that's in the sidelines anymore. It's mainstream. Especially for companies like us that do managed services that have that kind of data. It is something that we would ideally want to bring in and make that table stakes, right? So AI and machine learning should be table stakes in almost every engagement that we have. So from that perspective, I think there's a lot of interest for our engineers to get engaged with the technology. So there are training. We do offer up, training for them to go take advantage of it. We do offer them to go do skunk works in some sense, right? Because the possibilities of AI are quite large. They're really limited by the creativity of the person that wants to apply. And so giving them the leeway to take certain stacks and explore and come out with ideas is a pretty good incentive on the engineering side. And on the support side, I think they're seeing the value of being able to have AI complement a human face, and how it can help them save time. How can it help them improve their accuracy? How can the customer engagement experience improve? So I think just learning how to quote unquote partner with AI, the real intelligence with the artificial intelligence, is actually an experience a lot of them like to relish. So I think there's a aspect of it in talent attraction, but there's a huge aspect of it in terms of talent motivation and retention as well, where this is an exciting domain for everyone.
Hope the audience will understand this. Most of them will, instead of normal development, people are interested in nowadays AI. Hey, I want to be data science, or no, I want to be AI. That's what the boom trend is going on. Please go with that. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear what you said.
No. I was talking about, you can go ahead. What is your point of view in especially on the demands in the skill set AI? How you guys are fulfilling that requirements in your organization? But what is the message you wanted to communicate to the audience?
Well, for us, one of the big use cases that we see is in helping a customer to use managed services and to incorporate AI in that process. So, for instance, you can get an inventory of all their equipment. You can get inventory of every software application, and then you can begin understanding if they've got anomalies developing, or if there's issues developing that is impacting the performance. Many times we see CIOs think that their network services are congested, that they're having problems with their internet. But through managed service, you can see that there is actually no issue. You can see it's a particular application on a particular piece of equipment. Or you can see that the actual equipment is down. It's not the network. So you can use AI to spot trends, spot anomalies. You can use it to build inventories, to understand their equipment, and then to give a very fast response. Rebooting a server or a piece of equipment or a particular application, helping them to understand where they're having problems, getting root cause, and then speed to resolution. Customers are entirely dependent upon their equipment infrastructure, but having it connected to the internet. So if there is an issue, you have to understand whether or not it is your internet, or is it your equipment, or is it your software, is it a particular application, and then fixing it very quickly.
So out of all, I understood one thing. For startup culture, the way of bringing the people is most from university. I know, Mustafa, your background is from professor from university. But for the existing companies, I know Shashi was mentioning, giving the opportunity to them to train in the existing softwares as a bonus. Let them to pick up AI, ML. At that point of view, the application is the area which we need to give them training as well. So just one important question. What is the next in telecom? I know we are talking about 5G, but you guys are important leaders in the industry. What is coming up? I know Wi-Fi is booming, going to boom a lot, especially in the lot of AI side as well. I see there's a horizon technology which will tell you when the Wi-Fi is there, there is no more computer vision or sensors needed. The Wi-Fi itself is going to get all the data wherever you're located. That's what the next generation is moving. So what do you guys see in telecom? What is the next move in telecom? Is it going to be purely Wi-Fi based data is going to be collected, or it's still something else is coming in the future?
Wi-Fi is also is a big player. However, there is other contenders in unlicensed spectrum, and CBRS, also 5G unlicensed, are also there. For best effort traffic, Wi-Fi starts from best effort traffic and moving towards the quality streaming. The cellular technologies are coming from the quality streaming towards the best effort traffic. So we will see something in unlicensed spectrum, and I think it will be more efficient in terms of what it has been before. Also, utilizing in AI in physical layers will be part of 6G. So we will be using AI in coding, different coding techniques, different channel estimation techniques, different MIMO techniques. So our chipsets will be utilizing AI, and so that efficiency in the system will be coming from end to end, from physical bits all the way towards the networking. And edge networking, when it is in place, the information stored in edge networking, processing in the edge networking will be also determined by AI predictions, so that we will have better efficiency in the system. I think as we have more, better chipsets for AI embedded, and we will be able to utilizing the data which is already there more efficiently. And I think we will see it in the 6G era.
Sure. Quick thing, someone asked the question, have you started to explore AI integration with 6G? What is your answer? His name is Craig Gifford. Anyone? He started talking about 6G already, not 5G. He's saying 5G is old. 6G. Any information about 6G here? Shashi, Mustafa, and Doug?
I think I already mentioned about this physical layer issues. That's probably in 6G.
Okay. Okay, the exploration is going on, Craig. That's the answer to you. And what are the challenges implementing AI/ML to networking? What are the current challenges? This way is not all good. What are the problems you are facing? What are the challenges? Anyone to take this one? It's again from Craig Gifford.
Well, I guess just getting a customer adoption sometimes to understanding what their needs are. And so you have to talk to various different constituents within the company. You've got the finance side that wants savings, and so they're looking at implementing additional cost. You have to understand with the IT side what are their needs, and then getting them to have a solution where they can save money, enhance productivity, and deploy these types of services. You can use AI to help them understand what they have, understand what are all the different options, and then understand how they can use this to make sure that they're going to be down less. You can look at various different technologies for wireless and wireline in combination, along with the newer equipment.
True. Shashi, any point of view? Yeah, please go, Mustafa.
Yeah, I mean, a challenge is also, the building up the processing infrastructure, right? So for any kind of AI algorithm, if it's in mass scale, you have to build a cloud architecture to process it. And this is, that architecture is also evolving, right? So the new technologies are in the picture, and you have to adopt them. And a simple idea could be very simple to talk, but in terms of building it, you have to do state-of-the-art cloud architecture to support.
True. Especially infrastructure. Sometime before, the infrastructure was one of the biggest problem in the implementing AI/ML. For example, nowadays a lot of cloud offering GPU-based servers, ML services, a lot of things. If you talk about 5 years, 6 years before, there was not much cloud-enabled AI/ML services. Now there's a lot is going on. That's one of the. It was challenges, but currently I'm seeing still AI/ML is not 100% mature. Okay, so still the data governance side, how ethically has to be handled properly in the company, and how you have to expose the data, what data. The governance is not well designed for most of the organizations. Till people are crossed from prototype level to how you can implement certain use cases. That's the level they are in, but it's not still full mature in most of the organization. That's the way. That's one of the important challenges I am seeing when implementing the AI. People most of them trying to use, hey, I'm showing, see the predict engine, how it is working. But some of them next level, but nobody is an expert level of implementing around the enterprise level, especially networking company, any domain. It's not only networking, any domain. Okay, quickly, we are running into time. So just head into that. What are the, especially challenges do you see generally in telecom, which we can overcome in the future? Especially think about IoT. IoT is booming a lot. The telecom, especially, is trying to support a lot on the IoT side. Every company is trying to promote, maybe AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile. Everyone is trying to promote, hey, we are offering you to embed OEM model of 5G integration to your IoT. So everyone is coming with 5G integration in the devices. So where it will lead to, how telecom is going to support this future booming of IoT side?
Well, from an IoT perspective, there's a lot of hype about 5G, a lot of hype about these things, but the reality is it's not very well deployed. It's not very widely deployed, and it's not very, most people don't even know where it's actually even available on which carriers and which networks. Mm-hmm. So to really help a customer, you have to take a much more deliberative approach where you're understanding what is it they actually need and what is the bandwidth they actually need, rather than focusing on whether or not they have 5G. It's what do they actually need? And then use a process where you can use AI to help them understand their assets. And it's a very long process usually to deploy any kind of new technology. If you're deploying SD-WAN, if you're deploying any of these new technologies, you have to build a use case to explain to them what kind of ROI they're going to get. And then you have to get capital budgets there. If you can show a customer where they can get savings, you can demonstrate that they're going to save a lot of money and enhance their productivity at the same time, then it becomes relatively easy to get a customer to have a decision. So you have to have a combination of all their inventory. Just like Amir said, if they don't know what they have, you can't convince them to purchase any kind of solution or make any type of move. Then you have to guide them to all the different solutions that are offered by all the different carriers, all the different product offerings out there, evaluate them, help them to understand it, and then you have to help them implement it, because the telecom carriers are very difficult to work with. They send all kinds of alerts out there. You can use AI to take all of those alerts and understand what is actually happening so that they have a successful implementation. A lot of the implementations may take, 2 years to be able to implement an SD-WAN, because they've got all kinds of existing contracts. They're coming up at different times. So you can use AI in more of a total solution along with managed services to deliver that.
Got it. Beautifully explained, Doug. Yep. Any point from Shashi and Mustafa, IoT side of telecom? Let's move on to the next question. That's fine. So what about, how do you see telecom is going to be, we see telecom on the good side, right? There is no question about it. Telecom is getting into a lot of good side, promoting a lot of technology because it's the backbone of a lot of innovation, no question. But what is the other side of business view? Okay, how companies can, what is the area company has to invest, especially telecom industry, which will boost their business? So what are the areas is very importantly they have to focus for the next 3 to 5 years in the future period?
There is already a race, right, for in the telecom industry. It's not driven by mobile CSPs. It's driven by internet companies. Mm-hmm. Already, the CSPs are in saturation. They are, progressing in terms of, 4G to 5G, 5G to 6G, VDSL to fiber. But there is half of the world population is unconnected. Mm-hmm. And it's a huge opportunity for a company who could gather the next billion out of 3.5 billion unconnected people. That's why there is a race in the satellite networks. There is a race in hubs. So these are all driven by internet companies, not the traditional telcos.
True.
And that will upend the market for sure, and that will come up with connectivity to not to the population but also to the geography itself, and it will come up with new applications, new IoT opportunities. So and we have to wait for it, and it's very near. And already, we see that SpaceX are shooting for 60,000 satellites, and they start with 12,000, and they see the revenue opportunities. I think that will change so many things, and that will change also the today's internet players as well. And when that disruption comes, you will see, where will the traditional telco stays. Of course, traditional telco is trying to approach to enter the industry with 5G, and we'll see that. I mean, if industry and telco comes up with killer apps in health, in transportation, in other verticals, of course that will also good opportunities for them. We are in the verge of that.
I'm a little scared about the SpaceX, the satellites. I don't know how it's going to change, because we are talking about all the big players now. I'm very excited to see how they are going to rule the world. The next player, Elon Musk. Shashi, any points before I move to the definition?
Yeah, I feel the traditional telcos are ripe for disruption. So they are on one hand being flanked by cloud providers that are encroaching upon their turf. On the other hand, you have the Googles of the world laying dark fiber, Facebook, and all of these web scale companies looking at low Earth orbiting satellites and things like that. So the traditional telcos are in a position where they need to reinvent themselves, and they also have to figure out how to do that in a fairly nimble way, and maybe taking advantage of certain AI constructs will help them be much more inventive there, right? So I think it's an industry that has had a lot of CapEx related issues, inertia, complexity, things like that. And it's a good opportunity to see how many of them end up getting disrupted and who ends up reinventing and redefining themselves. And AI can be a catalyst to making that happen.
Sure. Just one question from one of person. How AI is interactive with different country law, like privacy? Who would like to take this question? David, it's a very important question, privacy perspective. Yep. A different country has different privacy law, BODI.
So I can tell that what we have done in our company, since we are in the endpoint, end user, end user traditionally opts in to the system. And when you do it, you can use public clouds. But if you collect the data from network, then you have to comply with the privacy law. That brings additional constraints and sophistication, because you have to bring the cloud instance within the country or within the telco, and your integration times is huge. So that's how that's why we focus on end user data, and of course privacy is always slowing down the deployment, and we will see that typically in edge networking, because in edge networking, there is a debate that who owns that edge nodes within the telcos. So will Facebook own it or the telco own it? And if you are a self-driving car and which is using your edge networking, and if you think about Europe, right? So you can cross multiple countries in a single path, and who's going to federate that? Who will own that? So these are all open questions today. And
I see that. Yeah, I see the application for this question much more on social media and social media companies. Europe has many different laws. There's different requirements. It's less a use case for this in business versus what I see different providers for, say, social media.
It is not only social media. For example, the computer vision side, right? Computer vision is detecting the face. Still, the machine learning, deep learning part, still you have a regulation of you cannot store the personal identity of the person's face when you detect the camera. Still, the law applicable to some different country, different domain is different variation. I see still machine learning part is somehow the PI compliance is getting to picture when you AI law. Every company, not every country has the same privacy law. Just I want to bring that very clear, because we have been working with the multiple country projects. So we know the law for is a product driven. What data you are storing is the matter, as you said perfectly right. The data of what you are storing, where you are storing, those privacy is clearly defined, but still each company is trying to come up with the new. But keep in mind, each country is trying to open more doors for the AI. Hey, yes, you can go, you can do a lot. For example, China, they detect all the faces across the China, and they can find who the person, where they are. They have a lot of computer vision, which they don't need an agreement with any of the customer or people in the country, which they can try, and they can detect them where they are. So a lot of technology is still applicable, but in US it's not possible because it's privacy law or the problem. Right? It's different based on the country, but still definitely certain level of storage of data. There is a privacy PI data. Yes, we have privacy laws implemented, but it still need a more governance, and law or privacy law has to bring in. Social media is a great area, no question. That is the biggest loopholes across the globe. That's what a lot of countries trying to bring a lot of certain privacy law. Hey, social media has to be leveraged in this way. I don't know how Meta is going to come, because that is more a virtual world of data. How it's going to come, we are still wait and watch. But the law will keep evolve. Still, it's not matured, but still it's evolving. That's what the point I would like to comment on David Steve question. I think we are up to the time. Last one question before I move. Is that innovation of technology is making you lazy or making you to run fast? I want an answer from all of you.
I would say it's making us run faster and faster, and it's driving a lot of productivity for customers. So these are creating huge opportunities. It's just really helping a customer to understand all of the different options out there, understand their business and what would be applicable for their particular type of business.
So, okay, it's a B2B perspective Doug is talking about. Yes, B2C is also there. Shashi and Mustafa, what is your point of view?
I think technology increased the collaboration, although we do less, but output is more. So,
okay, that's more productivity. Same like that. He's on the same hand side. Shashi, what do you think? You are on the lot of marketing product side. You know how to make the people lazy. Okay, hey, I will give you everything where you're sitting there. So, for example, this technology, you are sitting somewhere and we are speaking. Yes, it's not letting you to drive, get into the flight or walking into the office. No more hard work. Yes, but we have done it within quick period of time. But what do you think, Shashi?
I think it's a bit of a catch-22. You know, the more productivity tools we all seem to embrace, the more efficiency we all seem to embrace, the less time somehow we seem to have left. So I'm always puzzled by that.
But keep in mind, you are wearing at least 4 to 5 devices. Each one have smartwatch, smartphones, a lot of smart devices, everything. The privacy is still a question of all this stuff. Thank you so much. Nice talking with you all. Really, I think someone's questioning now. But thank you so much for all of your time. Nitin, take it from here.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you, Chitrai, for moderating it excellently well. And thank you, Shashi, Doug, Mustafa, for your time, taking your precious time.
Most welcome.
And it was a lovely discussion, frankly. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye. Take care. Have a great day. So next we'll have team from Comcast. Kenneth, Alan, Yulia. Take the stage. Ken is enterprise at Comcast. Alan is from product management side. And Yulia is also from product management side. So over to you, all three of you, to take it forward. Thank you.
I can get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Yulia Duria, and I have product management responsibilities for Comcast Business, SD-WAN, and I will be co-presenting with Alan and with Ken, and I'll let them introduce themselves. So we're going to start with this really, really inspiring quote, which I think is thought-provoking. On the next slide. Yeah, thank you. And that is from Randy Dean, who is CEO at Ascension Technologies. And he said everything invented in the past 150 years will be reinvented using AI in the next 15. It definitely rang true for me. This is what it seems like we're doing. We're trying to use AI in order to use resources better, more efficiently, while improving customer experience, which are goals that we have had in telecom for a long, long time. And now we're just doing it more efficiently. But in addition, we are also solving for additional new challenges and new business outcomes that our customers are bringing to bear simply because of the evolution of the marketplace. So what for us, it always starts with the market demand and the customer and what they're going through. So let's go from there, because that is really what's driving any product, any feature, any solution that we put forth for the marketplace. So first, really what customers are, they're still basically in their journey to the cloud. They are transitioning from keeping their applications in a legacy data center to moving some of those over time to either cloud or SaaS. We also, I think a lot of my colleagues here touched upon it earlier in the presentation, but there is the cloud adoption, the fact that now the applications are moving outside of the perimeter, of the networking perimeter, which was very easy to secure traditionally. The fact that we have COVID, and the fact that we have users who now not only sit in a traditional site, but they are also could be at a home office, or they could be on the road. So basically connecting these users, which can be anywhere, to these applications, which again, they could be somewhere in the cloud, they could be redesigned for SaaS. They could still be sitting in a traditional legacy data center, and doing that in an efficient way and being able to manage that really introduces a new set of challenges for both the telecom industry as well as for customers. And it requires a new set of SLAs and a new set of guarantees from a customer perspective. IoT was also mentioned. I mean, we all have multiple devices, right? We want to use those devices from work, and the massive amount of data that emanates from those devices is a great opportunity for AI. The fact that we have these devices as well, some of them personal, some of them from work, also contribute to the security challenges that now it's really fully intertwined with the network. 5G was also mentioned quite a bit, right? The advent of the 5th generation wireless network really posing a very, very clear alternative to the existing fixed network connectivity today, even though be it having still a ways to go until it reaches all of its promises. And then throughout this entire time, the IP traffic continues to grow, right? We have more devices that are connected to more applications that are that reside anywhere, and we really need to connect users no matter where they are, no matter which device they're trying to access, no matter which specific application they're trying to access, no matter where that application resides, and to really secure and to manage it all for the customer and provide this optimized application experience. So traffic continues to grow. At this juncture, Alan, did you want to maybe touch upon some of the AI tools that we are using here in the telecom industry?
Sure, thanks, Julia. Hey, my name's Alan Langfield. I'm responsible for operations of all our advanced services for Comcast Business. We've traditionally thought of AI in a very practical sense as the ability to do a lot of very high-level, complex automation. And the 4 items that are listed on this page are kind of the big areas that we have been and continue to lean into to really make things more efficient, more effective, more valuable for our customers and our own operations. The first is really the transition in machine learning, where rather than training a system or loading a system with complex rule sets, really allowing the system to learn based on that historical data, not just at a point in time, but continue to refine its understanding of that data and really assessing what's normal, what's abnormal. And while there's constant human feedback into those activities, really having the machine do that analysis and say, hey, here are things that I think are interesting, things that should be of concern or of interest, is a huge, huge value to what I'd call the traditional static AI models of the past. And having those, there's a big difference between what you read in articles and what the reality of today's operations are pretty big. And so being able to recognize these things are becoming more and more of a reality is really, really powerful, really, really positive. When we think about deep learning, it's really going into, spaces that are less binary, less yes or no than before. And, thinking about some of the things, whether it's voice recognition or video recognition, leveraging those elements, which are not very clearly true or false as we think about other 1s and 0 data, that deep learning, being able to combine those other elements into your data set for analysis is incredibly, incredibly valuable. Obviously, natural language processing, we'll touch on call center and virtual assistants here in just a little bit, is very interesting so that, you don't have to have people thinking about how the machine thinks. Instead, the machine's really thinking about how people communicate. So that bond can be much more tighter, much more natural for the humans using it. And then the voice analytics. So it's going beyond voice recognition, which is a very powerful capability. We've got, not just voice-based IVRs that are very effective, but our voice remote on our video platform. Voice analytics even stretches beyond that into really understanding the sentiment of the customer, the tone of the customer. And Thomas hit on some of that previously in his discussion, but that's incredibly, incredibly useful for, allowing systems and tools to interact and support other human actors in the process based on those voice analytics. Let's move on to the next slide. So Yuli and I are going to walk through a number of different use cases where we really see AI and the 4 elements we saw on the previous page in more detail. And, hopefully it's not overly repetitive. Hopefully it's more reinforcement of hearing some of the same things from some different perspectives. But thought it was very cool and interesting and not at all surprising that a lot of us are hitting on the same key points that we're seeing provide value for our companies as well as for our customers.
I'll get us started with the first use case, which is network optimization. And yes, we have seen quite a few folks really home in on that particular point. It was probably one of the first use cases in telecom that we all kind of dipped our toes into the pool, into the AI pool, so to speak. And it has been a really, really long incremental progression towards the self-optimizing network. And basically what AI, right, and this is really optimizing both the CSP backbones, our networks, as well as the customer networks. And I'll touch upon both. So there's a lot of commonalities and a little bit of few differences. So really, what does AI allow us to do in the network optimization space? It really allows us, gather the large amounts of data that we have amassed from all the traffic that passes our backbone, identify patterns, right? Correlate those patterns to customers, and then being able to detect and predict anomalies. That is the ultimate goal there is for us to be able to really proactively fix the problem before it has reached a customer, right? I mean, that is the ultimate goal, is better customer experience. So some specific use cases is capacity planning, right? The ability to plan capacity based on the different products and services that we offer. The ability to optimize specific applications and provide the right delivery for, let's say, an AR/VR application, which needs very low latency, and which is very different than if you are providing, let's say, you want the better quality of experience for a voice call, which needs the highest MOS score, etc. From a benefits perspective, what we really get to benefit from is proactively reconfigure and optimize the network quality. And that is all automatically, right? The ability to be able to really amass that amount of data and to automatically be able to predict where and when there may be congestion or there may be an issue, to identify the root cause and allow us the chance to fix it ahead of it hitting the customer. That's a really, really big one. Another benefit is attain app-specific customer detailed outcomes. So what I meant by that is more from an SD-WAN perspective. So when you think about, customer network perspective. So when you think about what does SD-WAN really do, is that it uses the AI principles. I mean, it was really built on AI principles, and maybe that's why it has been so exciting since we have gotten a chance to really bring that to market. But what it does is that in so many different respects, so we are able to really, through telemetry, real-time telemetry, to really understand the health of the customer's network at any point in time. And we are able to identify, each application and each packet, and to route that traffic based on the type of application that it is, on the best available network, while we still do that self-optimization, right? The self-healing of the network capacity, whether that's using forward correction, packet duplication, any type of dynamic remediation that we are able to do for the customer. What that results in is really a better quality of experience. And I think the ultimate winner for AI is customer experience, whether that is better application performance, whether that is better experience with a contact center, whether that is just better experience or performance of any device that a customer is purchasing. It's all about better customer experience. So that is great, I think, from an SD-WAN perspective, the fact that we're really able to use AI principles in order to real-time optimize the customer application. But in addition, we also have hundreds and thousands of SD-WAN customers, and we have the data that come from that data, from that traffic, sorry. So thinking about how do we use AI in order to improve the overall experience from a customer perspective. One thing that we have implemented in terms is really parse through the data and being able to understand and to predict where a customer traffic may experience degradation in the future based on historical data. So let's say that we can figure out that, their Montana, the customer's Montana site is really a top, it's a bottom performer from traffic perspective. And because we are a large company and we see tons of massive amount of data every single day, we also know that at that specific site, there's also an AT&T option circuit, there's a Verizon circuit, there's a Charter circuit. And we're able to really talk to the customer and say, hey, this is the reason why this Montana site is experiencing often outages or often degradations that even SD-WAN like service is not able to fully augment. How about maybe swapping your Verizon circuit with an AT&T circuit. I'm just using random examples here of telecom, but this is the type of predictive analytics where we can really look at the entire network and we can predict spikes in traffic, and we are able to route, to use various different tools in order to dynamically remediate the service, and or just even change sometimes, right? Recommend changes to that service. The next use case, Alan, did you want to take this one?
Yeah, I was just going to speak a little bit on the network predictive maintenance real quick. A couple of the pieces here. We talked about a little bit before. Other folks have chatted about today. But the interesting thing is really a huge leap from network monitoring of previous generations, where it's basically something is up, something is down, we're seeing packet loss. There are many more indicators that are important for us to monitor on behalf of our customers, and especially as we think about edge compute being an important part of network architecture. It's even things like monitoring what's going on at a CPU or RAM basis, so we can really help customers understand what may be going on that's outside of a domain that we can control, but one that we still have visibility to, so that we can predict those outages, and where we can, identifying a problem and resolving it before it results in that issue. That's pretty different from a very siloed environment of before, where you're looking at particular vendors' NMS for critical alarms and alerts. It really requires that cohesive, broad view of the network to be able to adequately, accurately predict issues before they become a real problem. And the other piece with that is just the root cause analysis then becomes much easier. We'll hit on when we talk about actionable insights, but a lot of what you had to do previous to some of this AI capability is search for the needle in the haystack after an event, right? And sometimes that's incredibly challenging if you don't have all of the right monitoring and analytics tools to help you find that needle. And ideally, you want to find that before it causes an issue for a customer or for your broader operations.
I can take this one. So I think that we talked about the convergence of networking and security due to just the landscape, the way that users and applications are just completely expanding, and that network perimeter has pretty much dissolved. That really opens up the door to cybersecurity threats and really challenges us to better secure all devices, all users, every single application, and to become a lot more identity management specific and contextual versus general. We're just going to keep everything in the safe environment, and therefore we are going to be safe from threats. So fraud detection has, unfortunately so, really has been growing at 15% year over year. It's expected to reach $20 billion, this by the end of this year. And just in general, the worldwide cybersecurity market is supposed to reach $250 billion by the end of next year. So quite a bit when you think about from a market perspective, and yet malicious, probably driven by the malicious attacks that are causing billions of dollars annually to mid-market and large enterprises. So the idea here is really to be able to identify any type of fraud automatically, right? Not after the fact, which is how we used to do it. Not for it to take hours and hours for us to be able to really create a signature and to understand where is the attacker, how is it coming from, and how are we going to block it manually, but really automatically parse through that massive amount of data and to be able to prevent the fraud altogether. right, systematically, and blocking the user, blocking the service, whatever is the center of that attack, which is really big. Alternatively, or equally so, I think in the security industry, AI has been used very similarly to be able to identify various different attacks. I mean, whether it is, malware, whether it's phishing, whether it is, DOS attack, to just be able to identify those deviations from the baseline, and to be able to create signatures in an automatic way has really helped us in networking as well, again, because of the convergence of the two.
Virtual assistants, we leverage very heavily, and we don't force customers to use virtual assistants. We really want to meet customers where they're at and engage them in ways that work for them. We have mobile app capabilities for our SD-WAN service that tie into Siri and Alexa, and I can ask, how's my active core network performing? And I just realized my
Here's something I found on the
my Amazon show is likely to respond since I said it. But really helping customers interact with their service in ways that are most effective for them is really, really valuable, and we hear that from a lot of our customers. But the important thing is it needs to be efficient and effective and provide value to the customer. I think we've all been in chatbot environments or voice-based IVRs that are highly inefficient, frustrating to use. And so really, we focus, and I think the industry is more broadly focusing on how do we leverage those virtual assistants to be very efficient and helpful to the customer or end user in the activity, and really develop the language translation, the natural language programming for that interaction to make it as effective as possible. And Thomas made several comments about this earlier on talking about call center. We also tap into those virtual assistants, thinking about our reps who are engaging with customers. And as we're listening in and transcribing those conversations, being able to provide in real time scripts on the rep screen to help them understand how to best engage the customer based on what the customer is communicating. So some incredibly valuable things that are really moving beyond simple voice IVR and very simple, very linear chatbots into things that really are very rich in meet customer needs. And we're hearing from customers, we're seeing it on our direct call-in numbers from customers, is a lot of times they'd rather engage very directly with the service, again, either via chat, via an app, or via a voice chat, without speaking to a live human being, to get some of the things that can be highly automated and are still highly useful for customers.
Following in the same vein, very similar use case, kind of slightly with a different nuance, is the call center. So I think a lot of service providers started with, that was another kind of primary driver use case for AI in telecom. And that was really about the goal being to really call deflection, right? To be able to move those requests to different swim lanes or venues and to be answered faster. We all dread having to call the call center and get help. So what AI, the various different AI tools that Alan reviewed earlier, NLP and VA, etc., what they're helping us do is that the number one thing that we have transitioned from is from this really static menu of press 1 if you want billing and press 2 if you want orders and press 3, etc., to really that the ability to listen to an actual ask from a human and to be able for the program or the system, the AI program, to be able to discern the intent, right? What is the intent? Where is it that this customer really wants to get to? The second thing that those AI tools are helping us in the call center is to be able to really see, is there any predictive intent? So if I'm calling into Chase, which is my bank, and they can see that I am late on a payment, before I even get to an agent, they're going to say, hey, I can see that you're late on paying your credit card. Would you like to pay, or is that why you're calling? Right. So being able to discern that predictive intent really has helped us the majority of the time to really get the issue taken care of. And then finally, from a contact center perspective, think about resource allocation. I think there's quite a few of my colleagues who really mentioned that, but there are resources, like managing those resources is a big deal. And they could be internal resources, they could be external resources, right? Someone that you're outsourcing to, and really being able to route those calls where they need to go. That's a big deal. Or very, very helpful from a call center perspective. Finally, maybe I'll touch upon one use case that I didn't hear. There's quite a few here in the call center space that were mentioned. But another use case is when you call in a call center and they're able to accurately predict the time, your waiting time. That's a big, that really helps from a customer experience perspective. If you tell me that you're going to call back in 5 minutes, maybe you can call back in 6. But if you call in 16, then I'm no longer, I have already moved on. So I think that is certainly one application of AI that is really helping us as users and as customers of the call centers to have a better customer experience. The next use case, so this is probably one of my closest to heart use cases, in addition to the SD-WAN, and really the ability to use AI when you go to market. So as product managers, we obviously are launching multiple features, multiple products over the course of our careers. And what AI has helped us do in the past is, number one, really use AI in order to better target the prospect. So based on the feature or product that we're launching, we are really able to look at the massive database of prospects as well as existing customers, and analyze and correlate various different data. Which products do they have today? Whom do they have them from? Are they where in the contract they are, because they're usually ETFs, early termination fees, and really we're able to target specific customers that have a higher propensity to buy the product or feature that we are that we're launching or that we are relaunching, which also in turn absolutely helps the customer, because they are in need of maybe they are unhappy with their existing solution, or maybe they're in need of the next generation solution. Similarly, with optimizing market campaigns, when you are doing any type of market campaigns, really being able to use AI metrics in order to be able to understand who's your target, how often you should be contacting them, at what point in time in the day, when do you have the highest amount of click and open, etc. Those are absolutely have been proven to be very, very beneficial. And finally, to looking at our department of when you look at which customers could potentially churn in the future, and to really address those specific customers. So we are able to look at all the data, what products do they have from us, what kind of complaints or issues or even network issues or complaints they have been having over the past X amount of time, and really being able to predict, hey, we probably need to have a special campaign for this set of subset of customers. So that has tremendously helped as well.
And so actionable insights is a phrase that we use a lot, and I'm hearing more and more folks talk about it. But it's really part of the shift from that proactive monitoring and trying to predict faults into really providing rich, actionable data about what's going on in a customer's network or our own network more broadly, and really understanding, first, what is normal for the network across the entire network, down to site level, even taking into consideration how applications are using the network. And some of the real challenges here, folks have mentioned, previously, Doug mentioned a lot of companies, really have deep separation between the data and the platforms and the process between, say, voice and data and perhaps wireless, and really bridging those, because, anytime you're talking about IP services, network services, WAN is now deeply reaching into the LAN for a lot of rich functionality. Those silos have to be broken down, and using some of these AI tools to really bridge those gaps and translate between the different services and translate the data structures and how the data is captured really creates this ability to deliver some of these actionable insights so that you can really see what's going on with the customer's network, and help them decide, hey, does a change need to be made? Now, one of the things you need to be really careful about is a lot of things can be detected, identified that are perhaps interesting, but it takes a lot more outside of a fully managed service to really make it actionable to say, hey, I'm going to do this on behalf of the customer on an automated basis, right? Sashi talked about the false positives still being a very real issue, and that's absolutely true. But even some of the actual positives where something is happening, something's abnormal, it's not necessarily the absolute indicator that I should do something immediately to remediate. But at least providing that visibility is incredibly, incredibly important before a situation, I'll say, spirals out of control and becomes much, much more complex, and is much harder to troubleshoot. And as I mentioned before, one of the huge benefits is that manually searching for a needle in a haystack, trying to troubleshoot something that is being seen on a Wi-Fi network that might have nothing to do with the Wi-Fi infrastructure, but really how a VLAN is being handled deeper into the network, or how IP address assignments being handled, or conflicts to that respect. And it really takes that broader view, bridging those silos, to provide those insights with suggestions of action. Some of those can be automated to say, definitely, if you see this, do these behaviors. But others are things you want to raise to the customer for their action. Now, one of the important things here is, we really, really work closely with our customers to really make sure that they opt in to our participation at not just viewing that data, but providing it to them. It can be overwhelming to a lot of customers. And a lot of customers are not prepared, not ready to consume that type of data or interact in that manner. So, really working with customers to understand, that squelch knob, how sensitive do we want to be, and working with them to set that and understand that so it can be effective and useful to the customer rather than just noise is really, really important. And then, someone had mentioned in chat earlier, but the international privacy regulations are a very real, very important set of considerations that are absolutely in play when talking about these sort of things. And that's why really understanding those, having the right infrastructure and the right locations of data, and the right harmonizing of those different silos of data to make it still useful to the customer, and then really making sure those customers, again, are opted in, they're interested, they see the value in it, and are looking for that sort of engagement is really, really important. But I think we're seeing now a lot of customers simply aren't ready for that. They're interested, and even turning on the spigot a little bit is a little bit overwhelming. But I think we'll continue to see that mature as that becomes more broadly available for more providers, more partners, and more IT firms. The last piece here, predictive workflow and scheduling, and this is really something behind the curtain that has been incredibly helpful, will continue to be really helpful, and really evolving how we do workflow and forecast modeling so we can be efficient in how we deliver elements of functionality to customer, whether that's delivering a service, whether it's performing change management, whether it's handling a break fix situation. Really being able to model and automate that workflow beyond just the very simple decision trees of the past, and really learning from that, has proven incredibly valuable, so that we can really focus on those points that are driving the most effort, are driving the most fallout, and engaging in that proactively. The scheduling piece is really interesting. As we start thinking about all the different impacts in delivering a service, we partner with a lot of other folks to deliver our services, around the country, whether those be off-net circuits, wireless services, if we're constructing fiber or coax. Obviously, each municipality has a different permitting process with different intervals. Really understanding that and learning about that, and learning the monthly seasonal cycles that, during certain months of the year, based on how hard of a freeze they've had up in say Minnesota, that's going to impact construction times. So really figuring out how all of those factors combine into a service delivery schedule is really valuable. Setting customer expectations and being able to deliver against those in a very solid manner. All of this is about pattern matching to really understand, again, what is normal for customers, what's abnormal, and keeping that up to date, refreshed as customers add more use cases, add more applications to their environment.
And to wrap this up, thank you, Yulia and Alan. Obviously, all of this leads to improving the customer experience while obviously efficiently managing the company resources as well. So I'm Ken Mofford. I'm the Enterprise Account Executive. I work with Alan and Yulia, and so I'm the representative that brings the solutions that these two smart people put on our plate here at Comcast to our mid-market and enterprise level customers. So I put my email at the bottom left of this slide. So if you have any questions, you can send that to me and we'll make sure that we get all of the questions answered if we're not able to do it here within this platform. We do have only a minute or two. And I do see, Alan and Yulia, there's one question posted in the chat. How can predictive maintenance promote innovation in the telecom industry? So if one of you two would want to grab that, that would be fantastic.
I think it's really all about maturing those actionable insights, and what are the things we can automatically, make changes, make remediation on, with a high level of confidence that we're not impacting the customer in unexpected ways. Those false positives right now, just learning all of those different use cases is just going to take time, right? And a lot of that's human involvement initially, to really allow those learning algorithms to, make those right choices in real time. But that's really the key, is being able to make the right decisions on remediation in real time without impacting the customer and causing a bigger problem. And that's much more complex than it may sound just at face value.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alan. So Nitin, I guess we're going to pass this over to you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for an excellent session by Alan and Yulia. I think it was really nice and it was really fantastic. And thanks, Kenneth, for organizing this and getting it to the table. So hope all of you have a great day. Thank you. So we'll quickly move on to our next presenter. Gayatri is there. Gayatri Sirure. She's from Verweba Telecom. Gayatri, you're there. Yeah, great. So over to you, Gayatri. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Naveen. I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes.
Excellent. Wonderful session, the whole Comcast team. Thank you so much for those insightful inputs that you just provided. So far, all the participants here, we have learned a lot since morning about how AI can help telecom in general in terms of user experience or network operations and optimization. So today I'm going to speak more from the network side, how AI can help in network optimization. Let me briefly introduce ourselves. We are Verweba Telecom. We are based out of Dallas, Texas, a global company working with operators globally since 2010. We call ourselves Network Technology Solutions. So what we do is we provide engineering solutions, field engineering services, software, products, anything that is required to build and maintain cellular networks. We have our own products and advanced technology solutions, and that is some of the points we'll be discussing today. I will move on. I believe the screen is frozen. Let me just see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So, can you see the intelligent connectivity slide now?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. So in 2018, GSMA came up with this concept actually. So I think AI, IoT, and 5G, they are not different. They are not standalone technologies necessarily. So it's not only about how AI can improve telecom or how telecom can enable or networks can enable experiences like AR and VR with the help of AI, or how both of these technologies together are enabling Internet of Things or vice versa. I think it's more about intelligent connectivity, and GSMA captured it very, very well. That it's fusion of 5G, AI, and IoT that is basically making up the intelligent connectivity piece. As a community, we're trying to connect everything and everyone for a better future. It is for different use cases like connected cars, healthcare, even asset and inventory management. So it's not one of the three that is going to enable all these new experiences. I think it's a fusion of 5G, AI, and IoT. Today, we heard a lot about AI technologies. So before diving into it, I just want to go over a few points on 5G. So 5G, these are the top 8 KPIs that we're going to look at. And the three main use cases: enhanced mobile broadband, ultra reliable and low latency communication, and the massive machine IoT or massive machine type communication. So basically in this diagram, you can see that there's high peak data rate, which is required for enhanced mobile broadband, or mobility, which is required for the low latency communication type use cases. So low latency communication type use case would be connected car. Enhanced mobile broadband use case could be a 4K video. Massive machine type communication would be connected assets or inventory management. So all these different KPIs are required to enable these use cases. But as you can see, they are heavily dependent on some of the KPIs like area traffic capacity or energy efficiency, user experience data rate. So these are the KPIs for 5G and how these enable the top three use cases for 5G that 5G promises. With that, let's look at some of the use cases for AI in telecom. Starting with customer care, we have all seen that AI has tremendously helped reduce the handling time and improve the customer experience index. So when we call for any problems, those problems are solved faster. A lot of times they are also proactively addressed. And that is one area AI has significantly brought improvement in. Then there is customer engagement. So this is where the real-time customer and business insights are helpful in generating personalized content and offers. So I think that is another area where AI has tremendously made a difference over the last years. Third piece is service operations. Here you can see that performance. So service operations is not only about customer experience, it's also network performance insights. So it is network performance, customer experience insight, and accordingly, the algorithms can recommend corrective actions. And in some cases, those corrective actions are also automated. Not every corrective action would need manual approval. So some of those corrective actions are taken by the algorithm or the system itself. And that brings us to the last one, which is network optimization. So for years, we have been talking about self-optimizing networks or self-organizing networks. So today we'll focus more on this network optimization piece. And this includes slicing. It includes predictive allocation of resources and also automated feature deployment. I think this is what we'll be focusing for the rest of this talk today. Anytime you have any questions, please put those in the chat window and I will try my best to address them as we go along. Looking at the network deployment phase. So AI, as you can see, there are 4 key phases in this whole network deployment and management. So first is design and planning. For people who are new to this industry, design and planning is where the operator decides where is the coverage gap or where are capacity issues, and accordingly, if there's a new frequency that needs to be launched. Initially, it goes through the design phase. Then there is an entire deployment phase. There is physically you have to take all the equipment at the site or nodes and install it. Plus, you can configure it remotely. Then there is optimization phase. Although the network is deployed, one has to make sure that the quality of service is always good and we are maintaining excellent user experience. And that brings us to the operations and maintenance phase. So this is where predictive fault management can help. This is where all the inventory tracking and management comes into picture. So these are the 4 major steps. Now let's go back to the first one. The first one is network planning and design. This is where I'll take a very simple example. Let's say there's a town where there are 1,000 people. The total population of the town is 1,000. And assuming each site serves 100 people. So you will need 10 sites in that town, but you have 9. So that is where you will have capacity gap. Or if there is a certain area, geographical area where there are drop calls or there is poor coverage, that's where you will need a new site or you will have to address that zone. So this is the gap inside in terms of network and also business. If you notice some churn in a certain area, that there are a lot of customers moving out from the operator 1 to operator 2 in a certain zip code, then that will also give you insights on where are the gaps. So that is network planning and design. Then there is deployment. So apart from the physical deployment of the assets that are required to run the network, there's also parameter configuration. And I've just taken a few examples for the sake of discussion. There are always parameter configuration. Those configurations vary based on the site, the scenario, and just to give you an example, the configurations on a site in New York may be very, very different from configurations on a site in a rural town of Oklahoma. So there are algorithms which can determine the site location and the criteria of the site, and accordingly those parameter configurations are deployed. Then there's neighbor lists. There are always sites communicating with each other. So the algorithm will intelligently pick the neighbors for that site. Then let's come to the third phase, that is optimization. In optimization phase, the key and the most important piece is improving the user experience. So quality of service is what we are looking at. And with 5G especially, because there are a lot of different types of use cases that are addressed, there is heavy network slicing and different SLAs and quality of service requirements for each use case. So for example, if there's a use case where we are looking at 4K videos and a use case of connected cars, although both of them will be supported by the same network, the requirements for the latency or the data throughputs are way different in those use cases. So AI will help determining the use case and accordingly prioritize the resources or allocate the network resources to that connection. The next one is load balancing. So load balancing and traffic management is basically in all the networks, the user behavior and distribution is constantly changing. So network has to continuously balance its load and manage the traffic in order to have the best customer experience. Brings us to the last one, operations and maintenance. So first and foremost is predictive fault management. Anytime you have any outage, not only in telecom, any industry, that is one of the biggest problem to have. So it would be best to have a predictive fault management and accordingly address those issues even before they happen. So I think that is one key area where AI is extremely helpful. Inventory management, we are looking at actually millions of pieces of equipment in each operator's network. So having an inventory of such a huge piece of equipment is critical. So that is another area where AI can definitely add value. And the last one is predictive cell outage and user impact detection. A lot of times, especially during natural disasters, tornadoes, hurricanes, there are going to be outages, and somehow with AI, you can predict what kind of user impact is there, and accordingly, the cell outages can be addressed in the order of priority. Now, let's look at one specific use case in network optimization, because as you can see, these 4 phases they have tons and tons of use cases where AI can help. So for today's discussion, let's just look at one specific use case related to alarms. Now, as we were discussing before, the key challenge is maintaining the highest user experience for any use case. Let's say healthcare, let's say connected cars, or high quality videos. So it could be any use case. And at the same time, your user behavior and distribution is constantly changing. So that is the biggest challenge that we have. Now, from this alarms use case, the data sets are basically, you're getting the data from each network element. There are different network elements on multiple layers. So you get their data in terms of parameters, performance. Then you get the user's information. This user information is related to the network. So user behavior, the distribution, the quality experienced by the user. So that information you have. Then there are standards and requirements. So there are certain SLAs that are required and mandated. So you have that as another data set. Once you have, and these are just some of the examples that I used. Once you have all these data sets, this is the approach that we took. So basically you have historical network performance information. You have that information, and accordingly you can generate some comparative analysis. Initially, at least, when your system is still learning, it is very important that you have certain algorithms and rules engine defined. So that would help with initial diagnosis and all the algorithms that are in place currently with the historical data and rules engine. The third point here in the approach is how can you predict these performance trends and failures? So AI can definitely help with that. So predicting this performance trends and failures will help determine what alarms are, determine the severity of the alarms, and accordingly generate triggers to either fix them or send some technicians at the site to fix the alarms. And then predicting the regional and network-wide capacity expansion. So in case you're getting certain alarms or certain KPI failures in a region, let's just take an example as Dallas, Texas. In this region, you're getting certain failures all the time. That might trigger the analysis on if there's a capacity expansion required. So these are some of the points that you can take into account. Now, coming to our use case where alarm monitoring, we are talking about alarm monitoring and how do we enhance the efficiency while all these alarms are handled. So first and foremost, as step one has to understand what kind of alarm is that. So the system, and I have a few more details about the system on the next slide. So the first thing is understanding the alarm. What is this alarm? Is it a hardware alarm? What is the severity of the alarm? What is the impact on the users from this alarm? So once you understand the alarm, then the second step is impact analysis. So the impact on users, impact on other network equipment, on services and layers. And apart from that, a detailed comprehensive diagnosis is also done with the help of AI. Reason being, sometimes that alarm, it's just not that one alarm that is showing up. There might be more reasons to it on why that is showing up, and that might point to certain system level failures as well. So briefly covering what we just discussed here. First and foremost, understand the current and historical data, user data, network element data, even the topology, apart from standards and performance requirements. Then we have the AI engine. In the AI engine, there is the first step would be data scrubbing and pre-processing analysis. There's a fault recognition module, which will be which is built based on rules library and learning from the historical data. And the impact analysis. How is this alarm impacting the users? How is it impacting the network equipment or even other service layers from that network? That brings us to the most important piece of this puzzle, which is manual or automated corrections. See, first is this predictive maintenance. Once you have this predictive maintenance analysis done, and there are or corrective steps suggested, some of those could be automatically applied, maybe parameter changes, configuration changes. But there are some alarms that need to be addressed at the location. So you have to trigger those manual actions when there are physical changes. At the same time, the third piece, which is equally important, is the long-term solutions. Because let's say you're addressing a certain alarm every month. That is not how it needs to be tackled. In that case, there's something else wrong with this whole system. And based on that comprehensive diagnosis, a certain long-term solution would be required. That is, I think I have a couple of more minutes left. But that is all I wanted to cover on today's discussion. On the next slide, I have my email and LinkedIn information in case you want to reach out to me for any questions, or if you want to brainstorm any ideas in the space, always happy to do that. And over to you.
Thank you, Gayatri. Thank you. Thank you for the lovely presentation showing how AI is used in network optimization. Thank you for the same. We'll just see if we have any questions. I cannot see any questions. So thank you. Thank you, Gayatri. Hope the audience will connect to you after the event is over. Have a lovely day ahead. Thank you. So we'll move on to our last presentation for the day, guys. So it will be by David Cote, who is from Siena. And his topic is automating network operations with artificial intelligence. Over to you, David. Thank you.
Okay. We cannot share the full screen. Okay, then share that. Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes. Yeah.
I do it like this. Can you see the full screen mode?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right, so yeah, thanks for, hi everybody, thanks for inviting me, Nitin, and thanks for all the great content about all these use cases, notably from the previous speakers. So yes, I'm David Cote. I'm Chief Data Scientist for the Group Analytics Division of Siena. And I'll talk about a very fascinating topic, which is automating network operations and using AI. This is the theme of the day. Just first, one quick slide about Siena. So Siena is a multinational company. We're a vendor of networking equipment. This is our claim to fame is the optical networks, and our basically the majority of all the largest optical networks around the world use Siena equipment. But more and more since several years now, we're developing software products as well and professional services. And the vision that we're developing is this, what we call the adaptive network. So this hardware that I mentioned that we build is the programmable infrastructure at the bottom. But yes, we now all our and also our in the industry in general, the very nice thing is the telecom equipment is as APIs and is programmable, so you can have sophisticated software that controls the network. And then my part is you can have analytics and artificial intelligence and machine learning that leverages this and can come basically close the loop. So on one end, you can observe the network, and I will talk about the use cases, and many were already raised today. And on the other end, you can also actually control via the software. You can control the network, so you can have adaptive, or you can also say self-driving network operations. Now, in the Blue Planet division is a special division of Sienna focused only on software, not on hardware, and also is focused on comprehensive multi-vendor networks and all the main technologies across the multiple layers. So it's not just for Sienna equipment; it's for the full networks, because no single network is only one vendor. It's always a mix of vendors. So yeah, that's what I'm doing every day. I'm working on AI applications for optical networks, but also IP network, cellular, 5G network, SD-WAN, enterprise. All these topics were touched today, so that's nice. And yeah, I go quick because I want to talk about, go in more details about some specific use cases. So yeah, one of the, probably the most advanced topic for using AI in commercial networking applications is network assurance. In fact, if I speak from my own experience, my background is actually from academia, but still time flies. And several years ago, I started myself a product line called Blue Planet Analytics in Sienna. But now this, fast forward, we have actually merged with a nice, another nice, much bigger product, and what we call Unified Assurance and Analytics. And this sometimes was referred as network optimization before, but it's really about monitoring the network. Well, actually, it's about this. There are 4 steps for network operations, and that we can use and where AI can help. You see here my cartoon on the left. By the way, at the bottom, you have your multi-vendor network with the various technologies and layers. And here you have the network operation centers and the staff working in the NOC. And so these people, they have an incoming flow of alarms and of performance monitoring data from the network. And they have to basically make decisions and make sure the network is running 24/7 and the customers are happy and the end users. So this sometimes implies taking some remedial actions on the network. And the AI can basically, what the goal with AI is, basically leverage and mimic the collective intelligence of the dozens of people in the NOC. Look what they're doing, learn from what they're doing, and make their job incrementally efficient and automated. So there are 4 steps for that. And I'll give an example for each of the 4 steps, and that's going to be the bulk of my presentation. The step 1, obviously, is collect the data, collect comprehensive network data. So that means alarms, performance monitoring from all the related parts of the network, but also, of course, it's not just raw data, but we want labeled data. So how can we label data? Well, we have to typically join different data sources, maybe join the alarms with the tickets, things like that. But one thing we can do anyway with just raw data is detect anomalies. So that's in a sense, the simplest thing we can do. But then the second step, we already start getting into more interesting AI there. The thing is, there are many and too many anomalies and alarms that are generated by if you just take the raw data. And typical staff in the NOC does not need to act, does not even need to know about most of these alarms and anomalies. Only a small subset is actually important for a given person in the NOC. So we have done quite a lot of progress on that, having AI that learns. Well, I will go into details, but basically only show the right alarms and anomalies to the right people in the NOC, and the others just don't, they can see them if they really want to, but they're not at the top of the list for sure. And then having now the next step is determine the root cause for these important alarms. So basically faster troubleshooting and try to automate as much as possible the diagnostics. And last but not least is once we know and there's an important event and we know what is the root cause, then can we recommend the remediation action? So solve the problem and ideally automate it. All right. So, but now if I get back to the step one, detecting anomalies, right? Okay. This is here an example this case is IP network traffic data versus time. This graph actually covers several weeks. So it's about basically modeling the traffic baseline, as you could call it, but the base, just to say though that the baseline is just not some flat moving average. There's this, we see every day, there's a very difference of traffic day versus night. There's a difference of traffic week versus weekend. So, and sometimes also the traffic is stable for a while, then there is a shift. So then there's a new stable, new baseline basically. So we have, machine learning models that learn all of this and can model all of that. So then from this we can compute this pale blue envelope, and basically the first thing we can do is report abnormal events that are outside the expected envelope. And second, in dash red, we can we can predict the future traffic. So here you see in dark blue is the actual traffic, and in green is the prediction. So yeah, with methods like that, we can report anomalies and we can also predict future trends. In this, so that's the step one. Then the next step is to not just, so yes, we put all in a big pool, we put all the raw anomalies, also all the raw alarms raised by the network. But then we want a supervised machine learning classifier that will learn among all these, way too many alarms, which ones are actually important for NOC. And not only that, but for each team within the NOC. So because the problem is the teams here, they waste time by looking at so many alarms, right? There's a large variety of equipment, also large volume, as I mentioned, multiple teams. What is important for one team, say the IP networking team, may not be important for the optical networking team, and vice versa. And here, AI and machine learning is is very important because of such multi-vendor. So here, this is from one production network that I've studied. You see there were 88, I believe, different device types in this network. They are from all sorts of vendors. So no single person can write all the rules for all these devices and all their versions. So it's very powerful to have some generic machine learning or artificial intelligence that can learn what is important and what's not important from the data without having an expert coding the rules. Another interesting graph is on the right here. You can see that at the x-axis here is the severity versus in color blue or orange is what actually is important or not for a given NOC team. And so you can see that just using the severity of the alarm as produced by the network equipment itself is an indicator, but is not sufficient, is not very accurate measurement of what actually matter or not. And the key is we can learn what alarms are important or not by looking at the very interactions of the NOC with our software. because we have alarm management software, right? And so we can see the users, they click on this user clicks on these alarms, follows up, opens tickets, and whereas for another type of alarm, there is no follow-up action. And so it can be ignored. So tricks like that. So that's actually very powerful application that I like a lot. And that is in production, not just experimental research. Another one now I mentioned, after we've identified important alarms, say we have a bunch of signal degraded, right? And these are important, they need an action. Okay, great. But what's the root cause? And this also is well, first of all, is a necessary step towards how to solve the problem. And second is also time consuming, the troubleshooting process. So here we have a number of use cases that are looking for specific root cause. And here I show one example with optical fiber impairments. So we notice that, in fact, a lot of the optical fibers or connectors, first of all, for the core transport networks, the majority of the issues come from fiber. It's not because the electronic of some equipment doesn't work. It's because of the mechanical fiber. And a lot of these fiber issues, they actually don't generate alarms, classic alarms. But we noticed that from the performance monitoring metrics and their pattern versus time, we can actually detect if there is a problem that, after maintenance window, a connector was not properly plugged back in, or after fiber cut, they went and glued back the fiber together. They got that a splice, they repaired the fiber, but the repair was not very good. So basically there's the light transmission is much less, it's much less good than it used to be. And this, they don't, maybe on the device, when you plug the fiber, everything looks okay because the light does go through, but at the end of the chain, it can basically cause a lot more errors at the signal decoding, which can be, hundreds of miles away if it's a long distance optical transport network. So anyway, so then basically we can generate smart alarms around optical fiber impairments based on, again, machine learning pattern recognition, and then also correlate the alarms with the other alarms and determine the root cause automatically. That is also a useful machine learning application. And then I go back. So I just covered these, first 3 steps of automated network assurance. Now the last one is I will show something I worked on last year, which I think you will find very cool. But just here a disclaimer: this one is not in production yet. It's a prototype that I've developed with some of my collaborators at universities, but. Yeah, so it's about, so it's about learning this piece now. So when we see a pattern of alarms or performance monitoring, we see some network state. Now, can we actually predict what the NOC would have done? What action do they take usually when they see this pattern? Okay. So here I show a lab, but okay, so this is, everything so far was based on real world production networks. Now let me tell you just one example about a lab prototype. So here we mimic, we also have such a, a network in our lab, in my lab, and then but I don't have a NOC here, so I mimic NOC by a bunch of rules. Expert rules, exact. If you see, so I will not have time to go in details, but bottom line, we're playing a lot of traffic through a lab network. And then, yes, if there is congestion, you can reroute. If there is a router issue, you can reboot the router, the card and the interface, things like that. So can we use, but then the question was, can I use AI to learn such rules from the data without coding the rules? And not only that, can an AI do even better, not only reproduce the rules, but do better? If you follow, there are very impressive prototypes like AlphaGo Zero that use reinforcement learning, and or that play video, learn to play games better than humans, right? So I got inspired by this type of approach. And so about our lab, still the same lab prototype, right? These are the results. So on the left, you can see that, so the x-axis of both these graphs is time. So as we let the lab network, self-drive, basically, right? On the left, you can see that the fact that blue curve and green curve basically means that, yes, with supervised machine learning approach, I could learn, the AI could learn by itself to reproduce the NOC rules. And here is, on the right is with reinforcement learning approach. So this is learning by trial and error and seeing the impact of the actions that are being taken. You can see from the fact that the blue curve is above the orange that eventually, in fact, the AI is even better than the original expert rules. It's finding its own new rules. So I'm going to close with this. Well, just here, and I guess I don't have much time, but to say just that if you compare bottom graph with top graph, you see that it's one of the reasons why the RL rules are better. It's achieving similar quality of experience from the end users, but with less action. So it's actually a more stable operation. Okay, there are many more details, but I quoted papers here if you want to see. And then I'm going to wrap up with this, that I think everybody agrees anyway in this audience, but AI and ML is key to automate next-gen network operations. And yes, this is also key for Siena's adaptive network, long vision, and Blue Planet automated network assurance. And we have several applications of AI ML that, once were prototyped, but now they are actually in product and still working on new cutting edge prototypes, such as the one to learn, remediation actions. And yeah, I think it's a very fun topic, and I'm quite proud of what we can do and what I can do with my research group in Siena. To push the application of not fundamental AI, but applied AI to telecommunication networks. And yeah, I think we're pretty much at the cutting edge of this research. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you for the lovely presentation and giving a lovely insight to the audience who are there and listen to you. Thanks a lot. We'll just wait for a few seconds just to see if any question is there. I can't see it. Guys, if you have any questions, you can put it in the Q&A section, or you can connect with David also later on through LinkedIn. So yeah, just to wrap up, we would like to thank our technology partner Digit7 and all our community partners, speakers and attendees who came together for enriching knowledge through this forum. It was really exciting, and this event today gave a lot of insights into how technology is transforming the telecom industry. There are a lot of use cases, a lot of things were discussed in the panel discussion as well. So I think everybody got something out of this event which we have today. Please log on to our website and like the social media channels of our company. We'll be sharing lots of knowledge-sharing topics, details, announcement of next events, and much more, which will help you register and attend the same. Just for your information, today's event was broadcasted in the YouTube and Facebook page of our company. So if you all can like it, you can go and see the recording anytime. There are lots more in store for subsequent months as well, with focus on IoT, blockchain, healthcare, banking, and much more. So request all of you to keep connected with us and enjoy the learning. Have a lovely day and lovely time ahead in this week. Hope to meet all of you soon in the next events as well. Thank you.